What's up, guys? Yeah, that was a little it's a bit of a bummer, but good to see everybody. Happy Sunday night. It sounded better in my head. I was like, I think that might be kind of cool. Just use poor Elaine Nadeau on an intro. I just love that shot. That's one of my favorite like images from Martin. Isn't that shot when he walks into the bathroom and she's in the tub, no longer you know alive, I guess is the way you put it. Um, but yeah, I just always loved that image. I actually have one of the original promotional photos with that image on it from Martin up here on my wall. So I look at it all the time. So if that made you guys feel depressed, imagine how I feel on a daily basis when I walk into my room and I see that right there, right by my futon there. That's where I hang out, chilling on the futon, watch things on TV. You know how it is. Living the 20-year-old life with the futon and the record player and the Blu-ray collection and yada yada yada. But how's everybody doing tonight? Hope you're doing well. It's colder than a vampire's demeanor here in Evansville, Indiana. I mean, right now it's probably about 0 degrees right now. Um, so yeah, that's been fun today. Fucking wind chill is insane. Um, but yeah, I had a pretty relaxing weekend, I guess. Just I don't know. I went to our local Mega Replay today. Picked up a stack of Blu-rays. I got a giant stack of shit over here that we can go through tonight and just kind of talk about. But tonight it's kind of just going to be a hang sesh. Just come on here, talk about a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Of course, David Lynch passed away just the other day. 78 years old. I mean, you don't realize how old that guy was because he was always kind of like a rock star director to me. He was like a Tarantino or something like that. Like the dude just he had a look. He was the kind of guy that he'd walk into a place and he would look like somebody. Not every director is like that, but I always kind of looked at David Lynch like that. It's just kind of like a a personality as big as his films, I guess. So yeah, we'll touch on David Lynch here in just a little bit, kind of go through his career, what my favorite David Lynch film was, what your guys' favorite David Lynch films were. Um, talk a little bit about Twin Peaks. Um, but yeah, so we'll go through all that, and then like I said, it's just kind of ask me anything tonight, whatever you guys want to talk about. Um, Throw it out in the chat, and we'll just hang out here for a little bit and just kind of shoot the shit. It's been the past 3 weeks, a lot of preparation going into the last three shows. We had the Romero trivia and the Romero roundtable, and last week was the history of Day of the Dead on home video. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I always like doing those because it gives me a chance to pull out all my my collection of shit and show it off and kind of revisit a lot of it, like especially like the Anchor Bay 2-disc DiviMax set that I showed off last week. Like that's one that I spent so much time with back in the day, and kind of going back and looking through it again and kind of putting that disc in and kind of revisiting my childhood was pretty fun. I always liked doing that. Um, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. So tonight we're just gonna hang out. It's up to you guys. Whatever you guys want to talk about. See what we got in the chat. Stugas, I don't know if you're in here, buddy. How you said you have to clock in at the lab at 5, but damn it, gonna try to watch. So I don't know if you're watching. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. Synth Addicts in the house. What's up, Synth? More fun stuff. Hopefully it's fun. I don't know. This could be. We're off to a rousing start with that intro. Hope everybody's not too fucking depressed to move on with life, but. 19 Limited 30. What's up, Brad? Happy Sunday night. Just finishing watching football. Yeah, I just finished watching that game too, but looking forward to the Night of the Living Dead discussion even more. Yeah, we can talk a little bit of Night of the Living Dead tonight. I haven't heard any more news on the upcoming Sony release with the uncut version of Night 90. Haven't heard anything new about that. The only thing that I have heard, I guess, is an addendum to the last conversation outside of what we've talked about before, is that it will be a 4K release. So that's some cool news. It's not just going to be another Blu-ray. It's not just going to be a steelbook or anything like that. It's actually going to be a brand new 4K, restored, uncut version of Tom Savini's Night of the Living Dead from 1990. So that should be cool. Looking forward to that. Matt, what's up, man? Matt Landrum's in the house. We'll talk about Matt here in just a second, but good to see you as always, my man. Got the some highs, some hellos. Synth, what's up, buddy? Been busy researching David Lynch films and music today. Yeah, I've been looking. You don't realize how much shit he did over the years. Not even just feature films, but feature films, short films, music videos, TV. Like the dude was just prolific as all get out. Um, Need to do an HJ or HWJ tonight, inspired by his work. I think you should. I think one of the greatest like TV intro themes of all time is Twin Peaks. Like when I was watching that show, and we'll like I said, we'll get into it here in a little bit and talk about my thoughts on the show itself, Twin Peaks. But the intro theme to Twin Peaks is still to this day like one of the best. Like just something that I just look forward to listening to. Like when I was watching the show, like that was my favorite part of the show. A lot of the times was just that fucking intro music. It was just I don't know, otherworldly, relaxing. I don't know, but yeah, David Lynch had a lot of connections to music and musicians, and actually played a pretty big role in quite a few um, careers in music. Um, but yeah, we'll talk about that here in just a second. Yeah, nothing like Slit Wrist to get you pumped for a stream. Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Maybe that was a bad choice on my part, but yeah, what the hell. Um, since then, those drips sound like the ones I sampled in my bathroom sink for my HWJ last year called Water. There you go. Yeah, I've always liked that song. That's it's a Melanie Martinez track. Um, that's one of the first things I ever heard. The video that she did, and I was like, ah, oh, man, this sounds depressing, but like dancey at the same time. I don't know. I kind of dig that vibe where you're so sad you just want to dance and get it out of the way. Yeah, sorry about getting the feels with the sad bathtub intro. Yeah, I don't know. I should go back and rethink that one for the future. Mezzan, yeah, killer image, very striking. Yeah, I love that whole scene is so sad, so depressing. That entire sequence there in Martin. It's like Martin's finally found somebody that likes him, that will once. I mean, she doesn't really like him. Like she doesn't want to know him or anything. She's just using him for her own, her own means. I guess I don't know, her own desires. She doesn't really have a connection to him, but he really did. I think Martin really did love that character, and him seeing that, and just kind of his like, I'm just not even phased by it. He's seen so much blood and death in his life that it's just like, oh damn, another one's gone. Okay, and he just kind of walks out, and that's just kind of the end of it. I don't know. I've always loved that scene in Martin. Brandon, what's up, man? Brandon Salisbury, Alpha Romero, popping in a while. Away from my luggage at the airport back in PA. Well, good to see you, man. And yeah, great work. I think I talked about it last week on the Resident Evil documentary. So yeah, I know you're going around doing the rounds. I was watching you. I think you were playing. There were 2 nights in a row, actually. I think I caught it where you were playing the first Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2 over on the Residents of Evil YouTube channel. I don't know if they give a shit whether or not I shout them out, because they are doing pretty well over there. But it was really cool to see. It was really cool going back and watching the gameplay on those for the first time in a long time, because it's been a while since I've played either one of those. So going back, it was like, oh man, it was like coming back to me. It's like, oh, I remember you have to, this puzzle here, you have to do this. So that was pretty fun to watch and all that. So I hope you enjoyed doing that, man. But good to see you as always, my man. Since I'm 20-year-old, I still have a futon. Well, hey, I do too, man. But I don't regularly sleep on it. I mean, it is. I will say, like, if I lay down on that sucker, like if I'm watching a movie or something, I'm fucking out. And like if I don't force myself to get up and go to a bed, I will lay there and sleep throughout the night, and then wake up the next morning just kind of like, feeling it. Brett says that Martin painting / image would be ironic, displayed on the wall in my bathroom. It's a good idea. I might do that, actually. It's a perfect spot for it. I used to have back in my old apartment back in the day, when I was in my 20s, my bathroom, I had a poster of Jack Nicholson from The Shining, where he's just the head kind of popping out from in the door. The hell, here's Johnny. That whole scene. So anytime anybody went in there to take a shit or whatever, they'd shut the door, and then you just have Jack Nicholson staring at you while you're taking a shit. So, so yeah. I'm a big fan of bathroom decor. Um, since saying, hey Brandon, nice work on Resident Evil Doc. Absolutely. Everybody saying hello to Brandon. Bonnie's in the house. What's up, Bonnie? Bonnie Bailey. Good evening, all. Good to see you as always. Hope you're doing well. Hope it's cold down here. I can't imagine how fucking cold it is up in Chicago. I've been to Chicago once in my life when I was playing in a band at the time, and we traveled. We took a trip to Chicago to play at this little bar. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's called Cal's. It's Cal's Dive Bar, whatever the hell it was called. I mean, it was a shitty literal hole in the wall. But it had like a history to it, like the Ramones had played there and stuff. So we were like kind of psyched, looking forward, like, oh wow, this is gonna be awesome. And of course we get there and there's like 5 people, in the crowd watching, and we're just like, all right, fuck it, we got paid $20 and came home. But that was the life back then. But yeah, that was the only time I've ever been to Chicago, and it was in the dead of winter. It was probably right around this time, actually. I think late January, if I remember correctly, like in 2012. And goddamn, it was it was bitter, bitter cold. So I hope you're staying warm, Bonnie. Good to see you. Down is up. What's up, man? What up? Let's see. What's up, all? It is snowing here in New York City. Yeah, it's just we've gotten nothing but snow and ice and frigid weather here in Indiana for the past couple of weeks now. So it doesn't seem to be letting up anytime soon. It's going to be down into like the teens for the next few days, and the wind chill is going to be minus whatever. Yeah, that'll be fun. But hope you're doing well, man. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. I got. Oh, there we go. Lost my place. Not well. Hang on a second. Yep, lost my place there for a second. All right. I think we're right here. Branson, all is well. Just landed from spending a few days with Residents of Evil, waiting on my bag. Very cool. Brett saying I watched the Romero Resident Evil documentary. Speaking of sad, the ending was emotional for me. Great documentary. Yeah, that's one thing. That's one of my big takeaways from when I saw it. Like after the movie was over, I was just like really bummed out. Like I was just like, God, that's the most depressing final 15 minutes of a movie I think I may have ever seen. But it's really, really well done. And I can't recommend it enough. If you guys haven't checked it out, it's available on Amazon. There's quite a few spots online if you look it up. But I watched it on Amazon. I purchased it, and you can buy it for I think it's like $12 on Amazon right now to buy. So yeah, check it out. It's definitely worth the time and money and effort into tracking it down. So, but I am looking forward to a physical release at some point to add to my collection. Which I believe is in the works, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, I don't know this word scent. I'm a butcher. You ready? Badalamenti music was great, but Lynch was also made some cool music. I think the last thing I remember hearing Lynch do music wise, he collaborated with Donovan for a Romero connection there. Season of the Witch. Collaborated with Donovan a few years back on some new music. So I think that was the last time I remember hearing David Lynch really doing anything other than the news that he was sick and wasn't doing too good. And I think he had emphysema because he smoked pretty heavily most of his life. Okay, Angelo Badalamenti score from Twin Peaks is fantastic. I never knew who composed that score, but here we go. We're already learning new things already here tonight. So here we go. Down is Up felt the same about the end of the Romero doc. Yeah, it's pretty sad. Since then she gave him the sex stuff. Yeah, pretty much the sex stuff without all the blood, and that's and that was one of the first times I think probably Martin had ever experienced that. The sexy stuff without the blood. Matt Sand always thought it was interesting that Martin slit the wrist of his first victim to make it look like a suicide, and then Abby actually slits her wrist. Said, "Yeah, I never actually put that together." Yeah, that's true. That's actually really sad to think about it. But almost poetic justice in a way, I guess. Martin all these years had been, staging suicides from all these women, and then the one woman he actually ends up caring about actually does commit suicide. Yeah, that's pretty deep. I never actually put that together. Since in the Rules of Attraction, Roger Avery had a striking bathtub suicide scene. Yeah, well, is that what we're talking about tonight? Is that the topic for tonight? Bath bathtub suicide scenes. What's your favorite bathtub suicide scene in a movie, guys? Let me know in the chat. Bathtub suicide scenes. Um, I know I'm going to get answers on that too. There's going to be, oh, I really like the one where but that's the type of crowd that I attract, I guess. So I embrace it. It's cool. Um, that's a good point too. Since probably maybe inspired by George, yeah, because Roger Avery was a huge Romero fan, and he's talked about the Romero's influence on his work. So yeah, that's very possible. Very very possible. Brian, what's up, man? Brian Stall's in the house. Gotta love Mercer, PA Municipal Building in the ticker. Literally took my driver's license test. That's pretty cool. Um, yeah, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I never knew which of these were real places and which aren't, because I think some of them were just kind of made up. Like the towns are real, but the places to go, I think some of them were made up if I remember correctly. Um, I had one person comment one time in one of the videos. They were like, it's scrolling down here right now, Youngstown, PA. They're like, Youngstown's in Ohio, dumbass. It's not in PA. And I'm like, yeah, no, there's a Youngstown, PA, but there's like 20 people that live there. So I don't know if they even have a municipal hospital. I don't know if that's big enough for a municipal hospital, but good to see you, man. Uh, the zombie historian in the house here. 60. Oh, thanks a lot, zombie historian. 66 degrees Fahrenheit in South Florida. Cold for us. Yeah, that sounds pretty fucking frigid. Um, lucky bastard. Um, Since then, 42 degrees Fahrenheit here at night. Cold for the San Francisco Bay Area. I would take 42. Like the other day, it got up to about 40. And after, ice and snow and below freezing temperatures for a week straight, like at 40, I was like, I'm fucking taking the jacket off. I'm rolling the sleeves up. Like, oh yeah, it's party time. And then, last night it kind of rolled in, and today it's just been miserable. Like you don't even want to go outside. Yeah, Bonnie agrees with me. I haven't stepped outside all day. It's enough to hear. Yeah. 2 degrees right now in Chicago. Wow. That's miserable. That's miserable. And in Chicago, I can't imagine what the fucking windshield is there. Or what my cousin used to call the windshield. He's like, oh, the windshield's gonna be, whatever. And I would always, yeah, I'd be like, what do you think it's gonna be, like the temperature on your windshield, like the actual temperature on the windshield on your car? Matt saying, hearing George Dimmick speak about George was really touching. I was literally crying when he spoke about George's passing. Yeah, that was hard to watch. George Dimmick, like, it really breaks down at the end of it there, and you're watching it, and you're like, oh, because he's kind of he's telling the story about when he first heard about it and everything, and as he's going, you can kind of see it, and you're like, oh no, hold it together, hold it together, hold it together, and then at the end, he just lets it go, and you're like, oh god. It fucking hurts, man. Because I remember that feeling. I remember when I heard about George. This was before I'd been to Pittsburgh or met anybody or did goofy videos on YouTube. I wasn't doing shit. I was just a fan. I was just a guy that liked his movies and wanted to know everything about him and looked up to him and was one of my idols and all that. When I heard about it, like I remember just going outside and sitting down on the back porch in the middle of the night and just chain smoking cigarettes and just sitting there. And it just kind of felt like a closure or something. Like it was just the end of a chapter of my life. It was like, oh, your idol is now gone, and it's time to move on, and stop being so obsessed with this stuff. Grow up, that type of thing. And now here I am, 36 years old, and look at me now. I don't think you'll ever grow up. When you're passionate about something like that, and I don't think I ever will. I think I'll be an old man still in my room full of my toys and Blu-rays but yeah. And that was a rough one. Even seeing Blasey, man, when I seen Blasey cry, I was just like, oh god, I don't know, I can't. And Felsher's story, every time I've heard Felsher tell that story before, and every time he tells it, it's just like, oh, Not fun, but necessary. Like, I loved hearing those. I love that ending of the documentary. Because really, like, outside of Felcher, I don't know if I've ever really heard anybody tell their story like about that. I don't know if Blasey on the old WGON radio podcasts. I don't remember him ever telling the story of how he found out and you know what he thought at the time. I definitely hadn't heard George's Dimmick's story. Um, but yeah, that was definitely a rough ending to the movie, but definitely, you know, right on point. Brandon saying being in the room when Dimmick was crying was a rough experience. I can't imagine that. No one in the room had dry eyes, man. Yeah, and I fully believe that. My sense, yeah, the scene from Rules of Attraction was tough. That movie took a dark left turn towards the end. Love it. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't think I've ever seen Rules of Attraction. Was that one that Avery directed, or was he just a writer on that? I can't remember. I know he directed Killing Zoe. I think that was his big directorial debut. But yeah, I don't think I've ever seen Rules of Attraction. Matt Sanson, fun fact about Roger Avery: he wrote a screenplay for a Phantasm sequel that never was. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that either. Yeah, Roger Avery is one of those guys that I would love to have seen more from, but kind of after Pulp Fiction and after him and Quentin kind of, I think they kind of had a falling out a little bit after Pulp Fiction, and they kind of went their own ways. And I know Roger Avery's life kind of had a turn there, where he kind of got in some trouble. He ended up going to jail for quite some time, and he kind of hit rock bottom there for a while. So it's really good seeing him. And I mainly know him mostly from Pulp Fiction, of course. But mostly from the commentary that he did on Day of the Dead. Like when I first got that Day of the Dead DVD, and listened to that commentary, listening to him, and I listened to that commentary a lot because I thought it was just really, really freaking cool that, one of the writers, a big name, one of the writers on one of the biggest movies in the 90s is doing a commentary on Day of the Dead. And at the time, like, I thought everybody fucking hated Day of the Dead because I wasn't even a big fan. Like I owned it on VHS before I got that DVD. But like, I was just like, it's just for the collection. Every now and then I'll pop it in and watch it, But you got to remember those VHS tapes back in the day, like Day of the Dead, it was so dark you couldn't see what the hell was going on most of the time. So it was really hard to kind of immerse yourself in it outside of the effects and stuff like that. But so yeah, hearing Roger Avery talk about Day of the Dead and just glow about it, I was just like, he was like opening my eyes to a lot of things. Like, oh yeah, I fucking completely missed a lot of this stuff. Just as watching it as a fan, Yes, sir. Romero lives. We are his living legacy. I fully agree with that. I think, and who knows, 100 years from now, maybe it'll be lost to time. I don't think so, because I can tell you now that even my daughter, I'm kind of passing it on to my daughter, and I wasn't even trying. It wasn't even like I'm like, hey, sit down and watch this shit. She just kind of became interested because dad's interested in something. So she's like, oh, your room is full of monsters and weird shit. Like, what is this about? I want to watch. Can I watch that? So I let her watch it. Now she's, her new thing though. Apparently, last night, she was staying at her grandparents' house, and apparently Little Nicky came on, and apparently she was all about Little Nicky. So maybe, I don't know, that may be her new thing, but again, it's still, about Satan and hell and stuff. So I'm just like, what is wrong with you, kid? You're scaring me. But I will share this story for everybody that wants to know. Today she pooped in the potty for the first time, and we told her, we promised her, it's like, when you finally poop in the potty, I don't know, a lot of people are gonna jump off here, they're like, who gives a shit? But I told her, when you finally poop in the potty, because the one thing she's been asking for, she wants a mommy Chucky, which to her is, Tiffany, the Tiffany doll from Bride of Chucky. To her, that's mommy Chucky, because she watches Seed of Chucky, and she's mommy, So that's what she's always like. All right, when you poop in the potty, we'll get you a mommy Chucky. So she finally did it today, and she was like, I'm gonna get a mommy Chucky. She's a weird one at 4, but I love her to death. Yes, Romero lives, absolutely. Down is up, says he agrees. Brett says, speaking of Roger Avery, I re-listened to his day commentary. I love pondering his question, why didn't Logan appear as a zombie at the end since he wasn't shot in the head? Yeah, I've always thought that too. And And I know I can't remember who it was, but somebody was asking about deleted scenes or any deleted footage that may be found when they if they ever do get a hold of the the original negative for Day of the Dead. Are there any missing scenes or any missing footage? And that was always one that I thought, because I'm kind of with Roger Avery there. Like, it would make a ton of sense for that movie to end where Bub walks away and he kind of sees the Logan zombie, and they kind of share a moment and keep walking. I think that'd be perfect, a perfect little tidbit at the end to kind of keep uh, to kind of keep that story going, I guess. But I don't know. Apparently, from everything I've heard, that was never shot. That was never a real thing. So, um, but I would love to see something like that if it is out there. But I don't think it is. Down is up saying, thank you, Brandon, for an incredible and moving doc. I fully agree with that. Since then, cool to see all the Romero on set images and hear that he was generally positive for a project he didn't write. Oh, which one? I'm kind of a little bit behind. I forget what the hell we're talking about here. Oh, the Resident Evil stuff. Yeah. Especially the commercial. I think doing that commercial for Biohazard 2 over in Japan, and actually I think the budget that he had on that was like more than he had for most any project he ever worked on, feature length films and everything. I think he was just soaking it up. You especially seeing some of that behind the scenes stuff that you see in the doc where he's working on the commercial, and Brad Renfro and all these, like, very talented people behind the scenes, and he's just there. He's just George. He's just, oh yeah, man. He just looks like happy as a pig and shit to be on set again, because you got to think at this time, like, it had been a long time since, because I mean, Dark Half comes out in 93, but he finished that in 91. So at that point, I mean, we're talking 6-7 years since George had been on a set, directing. So yeah, that was very cool to see. Since then, cool. Yeah, I read it a lot. His podcast with Tarantino uncovers some great stories, including his incarceration. Yeah. The Video Archives podcast with Roger Avery and Tarantino. I listen to that quite a bit. They talk about a lot of movies and shit that I don't particularly care about, but I just like listening to guys talk about movies, especially guys like Tarantino and Roger Avery. So they can talk about anything. I'm just kind of like, oh, maybe I'll check that out. They'll convince me to watch anything. I mean, he wrote the Resident Evil script, but it wasn't original. Like, yeah, I gotcha. Bonnie saying that's great. Milestone achieved. Yes. No more. Hopefully, no more fucking shitty diapers. That'd be great. Matt saying potty poop is a big milestone. Congrats. Yeah, I mean, she's been peeing in the potty for quite a while, but poop, she was just scared. She was like, I don't know about shitting. You really want me to, shit in this? And I've explained to her, I'm like, yeah, it's really weird that we as a species, like, shit in this, bowl filled with water. We just shit and it disappears and we don't think about it. It's like, where does this poop go? Who knows? It disappears. We just wave bye-bye. I've explained that to her, but she was just like, it's too scary. It's too scary. And then tonight it was just like, hey, come look. There it was. Floating in plain sight. I was like, holy shit. Anyway, that's enough to talk about my daughter's shit for tonight, I think. Michael, what's up, man? Michael Rashpaul, is that a proper pronunciation of that? I'll be visiting Pennsylvania in June and looking forward to visiting as many locations as I can from night and dawn. You absolutely should, man. And there's so many to go through and so many to look up, but that's a lot of the fun of it, is tracking these places down and seeing them for yourself for the first time. It's cool if somebody tells you where they are, if you kind of know where the mall is and stuff like that, but actually, like, finding these locations and doing the research and kind of finding them yourself. Then when you do find them, like, I kind of had that experience with the Skybus location from There's Always Vanilla, which I think Matt's gonna visit this year. Yeah, I did so much research and trying to find that spot, because I'd always heard, that it was near a dog park. It was in a park. I could not remember for the life of me what park or where it was, So I just started doing research on, the Sky Bus, like where it was located, where I could find it. And then finally I tracked it down. Finally I found it. And it was just like this real sense of achievement that It was, really, really exciting. So that's good to hear, man. You going to a Living Dead weekend in June? If so, you'll probably see me. You'll see me there wandering around. Definitely make sure you stop and say hello. Um, since then, maybe Logan was shielded from the residual Venus probe radiation somehow, refused to turn. Possibly, possibly. Logan was immune. He was one with the zombies already. Um, since then, there's a kid's book called "Where Does the Poop Go?" or a similar title. Yeah, that's. I mean, I'm kind of curious about that myself. I don't really know too much about the underground sewage system here in Evansville, but I swear I smell it all over town. I don't know. I think it may just be the scent of Evansville. There's the man, Rick, the North Going Llama. What's up, man? Good to see you. Hey, y'all, he says. Glad to make it. Happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day to all. Absolutely. That's here in a few. I thought it was weird that they decided to have inauguration day on the same day as Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Because tomorrow's the inauguration too. So I just thought that was kind of weird. But good to see you, man. Matt's saying absolutely taking the dogs and the drone out there. Hey, you absolutely take the dogs out there. It's literally right next to a dog park. Like you have to climb on a fence that goes to the dog park to get up to it, to get on top of the platform. I mean, and so while I was there, like shooting and looking at it, there's like just these fucking dogs running back and forth and barking at me and shit. And I'm just like, eh. And then the owners are staring at me like, why is this guy taking pictures of this old dilapidated building? I'm just like, don't mind me, guys. I'm not doing nothing suspicious here. Since then, the recent Sean Clark vid with Larry showed some cool locations I didn't have on my map last time. Yeah, if you guys haven't checked that out, it's on the Sean Clark page. I forget what the fucking page is called, Malfunction or something like that. But he does the Horror's Hallowed Grounds. I'm sure everybody's familiar with it. But his most recent video, he goes and looks at some Night of the Living Dead locations, as well as some Dawn of the Dead locations. Some locations that I haven't been to yet. That are kind of hard to get to, so I'm a little bit jealous, but Larry is all over that video. He's pretty much featured in that video, kind of showing Sean around everywhere. So yeah, I think I put that in the community section just the other day. So if you guys haven't checked that out, definitely check that out. It's a very, very cool video, and always cool to see Larry out there in his, in Larry's full glory, tour guide Larry telling you, this was here. And if you look here, you can see in the shot from the movie, you can see this in the background. So it matches up. And I'm just like, it's amazing the time and effort that Larry puts into these things. But I think he knows how much we all appreciate it, because it's really cool to know. And there's some stuff in that video that Larry tells that I never knew before. About some of those locations. So yeah, definitely check it out. Funny saying we live near a wastewater treatment plant. Oh, took a tour a few years back. Fascinating, really. Okay. I don't know if I'd want to live next to a wastewater treatment plant, but it doesn't sound like a fun location to me. Matt saying, let's get on that roof. Yeah, I mean, I've heard of ways that people have before, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what we can do this year. It's, from what I hear, it's pretty difficult to get on top of the roof. But I'm always down to try. I'll say that. Me and Will are actually been talking about, like, how could we possibly, like, maybe if we showed up and with a camera and pretend like we were a documentary crew, and we just wanted to shoot, on the roof or something. Yeah. But yeah, apparently it's on pretty tight lockdown. Michael saying, won't make it to Living Dead weekend, but I'll make it out for next year's. Yeah, I mean, I hope so, man. It's unfortunate you won't be there for this year. But I mean, with everything that's going on with the mall right now, like, I'm hoping, fingers crossed, like, don't want to jinx it, but hopefully there will be future Living Dead weekends in the years to come. But there's a lot going on with the mall right now. Just from what I've heard in terms of, like, people buying, the new owners of the mall, people that are buying the mall, the changes that are going to be made to the mall. Um, there's a lot going on there right now. I don't really have too much to say about it, um, but yeah, but like I've talked about it, I did a little quick live stream on that and done some videos on that here recently, just kind of touching on that. But yeah, hopefully, um, we can look forward to some Living Dead weekends for many years to come. There you go. There's the link to the video there, the Sean Clark video with Larry. If you guys want to check that out. But check it out after the stream. Don't leave. Check it out after the stream. Synth promoting other shit while I'm doing a stream where he's like, hey, everybody go watch this instead. And everybody's going to click on that. And they're like, oh, fuck this guy. Let's go see what Larry's doing over here. But yeah. Yep. So yeah, I guess we can go ahead and go ahead and talk about David Lynch. Passed away the other day, age 78. Now, to be completely upfront, I was never the biggest David Lynch fan. I respected his work. There are a few there. I'll say this. There's one movie in particular. There's quite a few. There's a few movies that I like, but there's one movie in particular that I was obsessed with, and we'll talk about here in a minute. When I first saw it. But David Lynch was, like I said, it was always kind of like one of those like rock star directors, like a guy that, would always have cameos and other shit, and did so much more than just feature films. I think the totals here that I got, this is from Wikipedia. So 10 feature films in total from David Lynch. I thought he'd done way more than that. But in terms of feature films, I mean, David Lynch only did 10. 46 short films from David Lynch. That's the big thing, especially after like the early 2000s. Most everything that he did after that was a short film. Were short films. So that blew me away. 4 television series, 5 web series. I mean, the guy did a little bit of everything. Music videos, a few of which, one of which, is like connected to like takes me back to childhood immediately, because I remember watching that video when I was a kid. But yeah, David Lynch, 78 years old, and again, not a director that I loved, not a director I was super knowledgeable about. Like, there's quite a few of his films I haven't seen. So any of you guys that are bigger fans than I am in the chat want to throw out your favorite David Lynch films, favorite David Lynch short films, educate me on this stuff a little bit. But just looking at his feature film filmography here, 1977, Eraserhead, writer, director, producer, also editor, composer. I mean, he was kind of a one-man show on Eraserhead, and that's one that I have not seen. I've never seen Eraserhead. That's one that's always been kind of on the list to watch, but I've never gotten around to watching Eraserhead. That's 1977, and I was kind of blown away that when I saw that it was 77. I always thought for some reason that was like early 80s. I don't know why. But yeah, Eraserhead, 1977, and then 1980, where it's kind of like his big breakout film, I guess, was The Elephant Man with Anthony Hopkins, and that's one I have seen, watched not too long ago actually, and it's one of the best movies of the 80s. I think it's kind of the movie that kind of put him on the map, made him a name, I think, when The Elephant Man came out. Yeah, that's a great film. Like I said, one of the best. I don't know if I'd have to look it up, but I don't know if that won very many Oscars or many awards that year. I want to say, did Anthony Hopkins win an Oscar or something for that? I can't remember, but great film, 1980s Elephant Man. And I think the success of that kind of led to 1984's Dune, which is kind of a bigger budget sci-fi film, which I think was kind of a bomb at the box office, unfortunately, at the time for David Lynch. But that's one I've never seen. I've never seen Dune. Never really been big into like sci-fi stuff like that. 1986, he comes back with Blue Velvet with Dennis Hopper and Kyle MacLachlan. And I'll touch on Blue Velvet a little bit more here in just a second. 1990, Wild at Heart, Nicolas Cage. 92, Twin Peaks, Fire Walk with Me. 97, Lost Highway, which Lost Highway is a movie. The soundtrack I'm more familiar with than the actual movie. The soundtrack is the soundtrack that I listened to a lot back in the day, and the movie's one that I've seen like in parts. I've seen the whole thing, but I've never actually sat down and watched it all the way through. 1999, The Straight Story. I've never really seen that. Never really heard too much about it. 2001, Mulholland Drive, which a lot of people really put over. That's one I still haven't seen. Like I said, I'm a little bit behind. Like I'm not the biggest. I was never really the biggest David Lynch fan. And then his last feature was 2006 with Inland Empire, which is another one I haven't seen and really don't know too much about. But yeah, I was never really the biggest David Lynch fan. I always liked David Lynch more in theory than I think his films. Like his films, like I like weird shit. Like I'm totally cool with, weird, eccentric. Like not everything has to be an A to B to C type story to me. I'm cool with that, but David Lynch, there was always a line there that he would walk between just like confusing and just way too out there for me, and then just like fucking completely brilliant stuff. And of all of his work, the one movie that I fell in love with and became obsessed with for a while, I was probably my teen years when I first saw this movie, was 1986's Blue Velvet. I fell in love with Blue Velvet the first time I saw it. Dennis Hopper's performance in Blue Velvet is still to this day amazing. Maybe his best performance of all time in his entire career, and that's big praise. Especially for me, because I was a huge Dennis Hopper fan in general. I love Dennis Hopper and pretty much anything he did. But Blue Velvet is like the one. That's the Dennis Hopper performance, in my opinion. Then you got Kyle MacLachlan, Laura Dern, Dean Stockwell. I mean, it's such a weird fucking movie. And when I first saw Blue Velvet for the first time, like I said, I was in my teen years. I was probably late teens. And like that was during a period where my goal, like when I grow up, I want to be a director. I want to be a filmmaker. Like that's all I cared about. That's all I wanted. And Blue Velvet was one of those movies that I was like, man, one day I want to make a movie like Blue Velvet. I want to make a movie like this. I want to make a movie where it starts one way, where it's like, oh, small town, it's nice. There's a kind of a cute story there between these two, kids kind of liking each other, and then all of a sudden it takes a left turn into fucking batshit crazy. Like it kind of shows the underbelly of like the small town, the small American town with the white picket fences and all that, but like underneath, there's these insane characters and this insane situation going on right under everybody's nose, but everybody's just kind of in La La Land type of thing. And I fucking love Blue Velvet, and it's one of those movies that is so quotable. I still quote it to this day. What kind of beer you like? Heineken. Heineken. Fuck that shit. Pabst Blue Ribbon. Like I would say that all the time. You go to a bar with a buddy. It's like, well, what are you having? And it's like whatever they say. I don't even have to say Heineken. They can just say Budweiser. I'm like Budweiser. Fuck that shit. Pabst Blue Ribbon. They just look at me like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yes, that's one of those movies I always quote. It's like, don't be a good neighbor to her. I'll send you a fucking love letter. What's a love letter? It's a bullet from a fucking gun. Like that type of shit. Like just that dialogue, just fucking Dennis Hopper's wild fucking antics. And that's one of those movies that I showed my fiance. We sat down. I was like, hey, you want to watch a movie? And she doesn't like these type of movies, but I just want to get her reaction because it's such a weird turn there halfway through. It's like, hey, let's watch this movie. It's called Blue Velvet. She's like, oh, what's it about? I'm like, I don't know. It's weird. It's kind of like like a mystery type of thing, She's like, all right. So we're watching it. It's like the first 25, 30 minutes. It's fairly tame. It's the, Kyle MacLachlan and Laura Dern, they're walking home and Kyle MacLachlan does that weird fucking duck walk thing in the scene. You're like, well, this is so goofy and it just feels, kind kind of tame. I don't know. Start watching it, and all of a sudden it takes the turn into the apartment when Frank Booth shows up, and that whole scene. And after that, my fiance was out. She was like, "I'm leaving. I'm not watching this. I'm not watching this shit anymore." Um, yeah, it's one of those movies that elicits that type of reaction. But it's completely fucking brilliant. And I think another thing about Blue Velvet that not a lot of people talk about, or I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about in terms when they're talking about David Lynch and what he meant and what he accomplished, is Roy Orbison. The use of "In Dreams," that scene there where it's like a candy colored clown they call the Sandman tiptoes to my room every night. That whole scene there with the way he uses "In Dreams" by Roy Orbison. I mean, people forget like that movie made that song, top the charts again, and that song was recorded in like '63, I think. So like 23 years after the fact that it first came out, like it showed back up on the charts because of this movie and kind of revitalized Roy Orbison's career because Roy Orbison was just kind of history at the time. He hadn't really done much since the late '60s, like '70s, early to mid '80s. Like Roy Orbison wasn't really a thing. And then Blue Velvet comes out, and that song becomes popular again. And all of a sudden, Roy Orbison's career takes off. And he died like two years after Blue Velvet came out. But the last 2 years of Roy Orbison's life, he had like this huge resurgence. Like he was doing live concerts, live concert movies. I can't remember what the fuck it's called. It's like something in black and white or something like that. But like he's playing with Bruce Springsteen and like all these big artists at the time. He releases, new album that tops the charts. He forms the Traveling Wilburys with Tom Petty and Bob Dylan and Jeff Lynne and George Harrison. I mean, it was a super group. Like Roy Orbison's final 2 years of his life, um, his career is back on top again. 20 years or so after he was on top in the 50s and 60s. And a lot, I mean, that's 99%, due to David Lynch and David Lynch using that song in that movie. And the weird way that he uses it, sure. I mean, I think even Roy Orbison was not the biggest fan of the way that the song was used. But you can't argue with the success that Roy Orbison had after that. And like I said, unfortunately, he passed away just a couple of years after Blue Velvet came out. So and Roy Orbison had a tough life. If you know anything about Roy Orbison's life, he had a wife who was killed in a motorcycle accident. And then a couple of years after that, he lost both of his oldest sons in a house fire while I think he was on tour or something at the time. So like Roy Orbison had a really sad life. So the fact that the final couple, and I've always been a big Roy Orbison fan. I love Roy Orbison. But a lot of that, I think, kind of started when I first saw Blue Velvet and heard that song for the first time. Like, I always kind of knew some of the Roy Orbison songs growing up, like, Pretty Woman Walking Down the Street. But, like, if you go back and listen to some of Roy Orbison's real, like, sad bastard shit from back in the time, like, that's the stuff that you listen to when you're going through a breakup and you're going through the heartbreak and you put on fucking Only the Lonely. Like, you hear that and you're like, oh, yes, it hits perfect. But anyway, yeah, that's the thing I really heard a lot of people talk about, and when they're referencing David Lynch, was his effect on the resurgence of Roy Orbison's career in the '80s. But let me hit the chat here. What do you guys think? We got a lot of people talking here about David Lynch. So I'll turn the floor over to you guys. What are your thoughts? Favorite David Lynch films? Favorite David Lynch memories? Scenes, short films, anything that he ever did. We can actually touch on my thoughts on Twin Peaks here in just a second too, but I'm sure somebody will bring it up here in the chat. Still talking about the wastewater plants here. There we go. Rick saying, very sad. David Lynch was an innovator in some respects. Yeah, I mean, he definitely was. And I think the most impressive thing about David Lynch was the fact that he was able to continue to have a career all these years by completely doing his own thing. Like he never, like, if his movies are his movies. Like it's what he wanted to make. Like and only David Lynch could make those movies. Um, Down is up saying, didn't Larry have a tour of the roof at one Living Dead weekends? I don't think so. I know some people have been up to the roof, but I think one year at Living Dead weekend they had a photo op for like a certain number of people where you could get on the roof of the Monroeville Mall. We're talking about the roof for 247 Fort Pitt Boulevard, which is where the old Latent Image offices were, and that's where they shot the rooftop scenes from Dawn of the Dead, where Wooly and they're all on the roof, and he's like, that's where they shot that stuff, and that's where I want to get up to because a lot of that, I mean, untouched by time is, I mean, a rooftop's not going to change too much. It's pretty much exactly the same how it was back in the back when they shot the movie. Mayor's in the house. What's up, Mayor? Hello, everyone. Good to see the mayor here. Talking a little David Lynch here. Matt saying Lost Highway was my shit. The soundtrack was/is one of my favorites. Nine Inch Nails, Manson, Smashing Pumpkins, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, Lost Highway is one of those movies I've seen in bits and pieces, but never actually sat and watched all the way through. A friend of mine who's no longer with us either, she was the biggest David Lynch fan. Like if because she was married to one of my best friends, and anytime I'd go over there to hang out or whatever, she'd be watching David Lynch. She'd be studying something about David. She would have some new fact about David. Like she was obsessed with David Lynch. One of the cool things that she actually was battling cancer for quite a few years there. One of the coolest things that my friend, his name was Dustin. If he's watching, what's up, man? One of the coolest things he did was he threw a Twin Peaks style birthday party for her. So him and my buddy Ryan turned Ryan's house into just it's like one big scene from Twin Peaks. And then everybody that showed up at the party had to be dressed as a character. So you had people come in, and like I was, whatever the doctor's name, I can't remember what his name is. It's been so long since I've seen that show. But yeah, everybody had to come dressed as a character from Twin Peaks, and they had a little casino room. They had, all the. It was so fucking cool. It was really, really friggin' cool. But yeah, Lost Highway was one that I would see, like if I was over there, she'd be watching it, and I would just kind of watch a little bit with her, and then go do something else and watch a little bit. It was just kind of those things I was always in and out. But the soundtrack itself is one that I've always been a huge fan of. I've listened to that soundtrack for. God, since I was a teenager, when I saw the video for Nine Inch Nails, "The Perfect Drug," and I was like, "Holy shit, that's one of my favorite Nine Inch Nails songs." So that kind of led me to the soundtrack. But the movie itself is one I definitely need to hip up to a little bit there. Since saying I saw most Lynch movies in the theater, it makes a huge difference. Yeah, I saw you post that on the was it the Dead Pit show the other night, the Friday Night Lives. I imagine that does too. Like a lot of movies, when I see them in a theater, I like them a lot more than when I go back and rewatch them at home. Like there's a theater experience there, and I'm sure Lynch's films played a big role, or the theater experience played a big role in the enjoyment of a lot of those films. Powerful, odd, crazy imagery, and plenty of beautiful shots. Yeah. Zombie Historian's a fan of Eraserhead. Yeah, that's one it's like on the top of my list of shit I need to see, because it's, if I remember correctly, I think I remember hearing Kubrick saying that was like one of his favorite movies of all time was Eraserhead. So if it's one of Kubrick's favorite movies of all time, then that's something that I gotta fucking see. Justin Moreno, what's up, man? Good to see you. I think that's a fairly new name. I don't know if I've seen you in the chat. That sounds kind of familiar. But he's paying his respects here to David Lynch. Since then, hard to pick a favorite. He had many good ones. I even like his version of Dune, great synth / orchestra score by Toto. Okay. Yeah, Dune's one that I've heard good and bad things about. Some people will just say, it's unwatchable. And then some people say, oh, it's genius. So, yeah, Zombie Historian saying Blue Velvet's pretty sick too. Yeah, it really is. It's a tough watch. There's definitely some tough scenes in there, especially when Frank Booth enters and he's got the fucking, he's huffing the fucking happy gas or whatever the hell it is, and mommy, don't fucking look at me. Yeah, it's a rough scene. That's it. That's a tough one to watch. That, like I said, that's when my fiance went bye bye. She was like, I can't watch this. This is too fucked up. Um, Since then, Mulholland Drive is a hell of a ride. Yeah, that's another one that I've heard a lot of really good things about from quite a few different people. Um, I need to see that one too. Rick saying, did not David Lynch produce that TV series on the ABC network, Twin Peaks? Yeah, yeah, that's David Lynch, Twin Peaks. Which my thoughts on Twin Peaks. So I of course I didn't see it first run when it came out because I think it came out like 92. I want to say is when 91, 92, something like that. And I'd have been like 3 at the time. So later on in life, I was probably in my early 20s, I guess, when I finally came across it on Netflix, or whatever the hell it was. And I remember watching the first season. I fell in love with it. Like I was watching the first season, and I was like, "Oh man, I can't wait to see where this goes." Like it was just it hit. I was like, "Oh, this is great." I love the fucking theme music. Um, the characters were interesting. The story was interesting. Um, and then season 2 came, and that's when it kind of went off the rails a little bit. Then all of a sudden, you had dancing midgets and old guys giving you the thumbs up, and I was just like, but I wasn't prepared for, because I guess like the first season it felt so much just like a true crime, like your normal true crime fucking TV series, and you're like, oh, who did it? It's who's going to be the killer type of thing. And then season 2 rolls in, and it's just like we're going way out into fucking wacky ass David Lynch world. Um, and it lost me. I got halfway through season 2, and I was just like, I don't want to finish this. So I've never finished season 2 of Twin Peaks, and I think because it only had those 2 seasons, and I think that's the reaction that most people had to that show. Unfortunately, um, I think most people saw the first season and was like, "Wow, this is cool," and then season 2 came along, and it just went in a direction that it's not a very mainstream direction. We'll just say that. And B, I think it was confusing to most normal people that were watching, primetime network television back in the early 90s. It was just a little too much of a head fuck for those people, I think. And it was for me too. I mean, I'll admit that. I'm not, I'm, I'm not saying I'm like, oh yeah, I'm astute and highbrow, and I understand everything that's going on here. I didn't know what the fuck was going on in season 2. Um, but I think that's kind of the thing, that the people that get it. Like the people that love David Lynch and love Twin Peaks, like my friend, her name was Heather. The people that get it love it. Like they fucking get it. And I respect the hell out of that. And that's the type of shit that I'm interested in. Like that's the shit that I respect. Like even if I'm not a fan of it, if I don't get it, the fact that there are people that are super super passionate about something as out there as a lot of Lynch films and Twin Peaks, um, I'm down with that. I'm cool as shit with that. Um, but yeah, that's just kind of my experience with Twin Peaks. Again, I love the intro score, or the intro theme, but the show just kind of lost me in that second season. And I think that's kind of but you got to love the fucking balls of a guy like David Lynch to just say, okay, season 1 was a success and we got season 2. What are we going to do now? It's like, hey, let's call up that dancing midget. It's time. It's dancing midget time. Damn it. Um, don't get me wrong. Like there's images like that, like the fucking dancing midget and the fucking old guy like walking down the hall and giving you the thumbs up constantly, that sticks with me to this day and probably always will. But since then, Lost Highway soundtrack is the best part of it. Some scenes are good, but not a great film. See, I've heard that too, like both ways. Like some people are pro Lost Highway, some people are anti Lost Highway. Bonnie Santa Racerhead is still a favorite. I get something new out of it with every watch. I had my daughter watch it with me last year, and she actually watched it all the way through. Well, yeah, like I said, it's on the list. That's definitely one I got to get to sooner rather than later. McLaughlin was recently in Fallout on Prime Video last year. Yeah, McLaughlin's been in a lot of things. Um, and he's just one of those actors that Lynch used in everything. Him, Laura Dern, like Lynch. That's one thing Lynch used. I mean, he was the star of Twin Peaks. That was kind of Lynch's go-to guy a lot of the times. McLaughlin starred in an old '80s movie, The Hidden, which I thought was very good. Yeah, he was. I think he was in Dune too. Was that the first? I think Dune was his first role with Lynch. Unless he had a smaller role in Elephant Man or something, but um, Mayor says if you have Max, Inland Empire, and probably 4 other Lynch films are streaming in honor of his passing. Okay. Again, like streaming, like I don't stream a whole lot. I very rarely, unless I'm specifically going to look for something like the Resident Evil documentary or something like that. I very rarely would just be like, I'm bored. I'm gonna watch a movie. Like if I want to watch something, like I said, I have an entire stack of shit here that I've picked up over the past few weeks. That a lot of which I need to catch up on. But that's good to know. I'll definitely. It's because, like I said, Mulholland Drive and Eraserhead are like the big two that I still need to see. Since that he pulled a Soderbergh with Inland Empire and shot it on Pro Summer Sony PD 150 cams, looks bad. Okay, interesting. Well, you mentioned Soderbergh. I liked what was that movie called? Unsane. I actually kind of liked that movie. I kind of dug that. It had the guy from Blair Witch Project in it, and didn't even realize it was him at the time. But I didn't mind that movie that Soderbergh did. It did kind of look like shit. I'll say that, but not a bad movie. Matt saying The Perfect Drug is such a killer track. Yeah, it came out in that transitional time between the Downward Spiral and the Fragile. Yeah. I just love the fucking ending of that, where it's just like, without you, everything falls apart. Like that whole, it kind of goes from like this wild, frantic fucking, composition, then all of a sudden it just goes straight down into just, sad, melodic, beautiful ending of a song there. Yeah, that's one of my all-time favorite Nine Inch Nails tracks. That's insane. Frank Booth and Bobby Peru are 2 of Lynch's best sleazy characters. Yeah, I mean, Frank Booth is hard to beat in my book. Justin saying Lost Highway and Mulholland Drive are my 2 favorites. Yeah, those are 2 I hear a lot about. Like I said, Mulholland Drive's on the list. Actually, I had a buddy not too long ago say, dude, you need to watch Mulholland Drive. This was even before David Lynch had passed away. He just saw it for the first time. I was like, dude, you need to see this. You will love this movie. Rick saying Kyle played an alien marshal of sorts that was in pursuit of a convicted criminal alien which had escaped and would infest the indigenous life form to acclimate to the planet. Yeah, that sounds like a David Lynch movie. I guess you're referring to Dune, I guess. Since then, I know of only a few women that enjoy Blue Velvet. Yeah, it's not a warm and cuddly movie at all. I'll say that. Or yeah, Rammstein. How do you guys pronounce it? Rammstein or Rammstein? I'm gonna say Rammstein because it sounds more German. Rammstein was perfect on the Lost Highway soundtrack. They're amazing live. Yeah, that's a band I'd love to see live. Actually, is Rammstein. Rob, what's up, man? Rob Lucas in the house, man. Roy Orbison is amazing, and In Dreams is such a masterpiece. What a giant! Yeah. Like I said, I'm a huge Roy Orbison fan. Listened to a lot of Roy Orbison growing up. Like I said, especially after hearing In Dreams and Blue Velvet and all that. And because, like I said, I always knew Roy Orbison from like Pretty Woman and some of his more upbeat shit. I never knew he was such a, a lot of his music was just like, he was like the original emo music kind of back in the day, I think. But yeah, love Roy Orbison. Yep, second Roy Orbison had a second career with Traveling Wilburys. That's true. That's what it's called, Black and White Night. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a great concert movie there. I forget who all he plays with on that, but it's like, I think it's like Patti Smith, Springsteen. It's like the band that he plays with is just like some of the biggest artists in the world at the time, can't remember if Tom Petty was playing there. I think Jeff Lynne was a part of that band. I can't remember, but it was like a who's who. So I'm trying to hit all the Lynch comments here. Since Lynch knew how to select perfect scene music. Yeah, that's a big thing about David Lynch too. Is his love of music. I mean, he had a good ear for what music can go where in his films. Now we're just listing great bands. Green Day, Weezer, Smashing Pumpkins. We're saying, wasn't that Dennis Hopper who played that part? What did I miss? Yeah, you talking about Frank Booth and Blue Velvet? Yeah, that was Dennis Hopper. Rob saying Lost Highway, Pulp Fiction, The Crow, and Singles had the best soundtracks of the 90s. Also Judgment Night. Yeah, a lot of great soundtracks in the 90s. You know, some soundtracks that I love from the 90s is a lot of the Farrelly Brothers scores for the comedies that they had. You know, Dumb and Dumber, Kingpin, There's Something About Mary. Love those soundtracks from the 90s. And Blue Velvet, yeah. That was Dennis Hopper. That's probably the quintessential Dennis Hopper role, in my opinion. Lynch is always off the rails. Yeah, but that's why you love it. We're saying, yep, then 2 years later, the infamous X-Files began broadcasting. Yeah, X-Files was definitely directly influenced by Twin Peaks, I would say. You can definitely see the connection, like the inspiration there that the X-Files took. Since saying if you didn't like Twin Peaks, stay away from season 3. Bonkers is a poor description. Yeah, I've heard a lot of things about that season 3 that he did in 2017. Yeah, I've had nothing that really made me want to go out of my way to see it, but that's just me. I don't know. But the first season of Twin Peaks is fantastic. It's just kind of, like I said, it just kind of veers off into Lynch land, and I'm just, I don't know. I was just like, I don't know, man. It's not where I was hoping it would go. Matt saying, I don't think Lynch wanted to reveal Laura's killer in season 2. Like usual, there was studio interference. At least that's what I remember. Fire Walk with Me felt more Lynch than the show. Yeah, I've never seen that, which I think Fire Walk with Me is like the prequel, basically, to the first season of Twin Peaks. So I was kind of thinking about that today, actually, like maybe going back, watching Fire Walk with Me, and then going back and rewatching the first 2 seasons of Twin Peaks. Maybe I would like it a little more than I did at the time, but Matt saying Synth actually like Twin Peaks revival. It was actually fucking bonkers, but it was enjoyable. Yeah, that's pretty much the word that I've heard from most people, is that it was pretty fucking bonkers. Bonnie saying Perfect Drug is great. I agree. I was a goth kid. Yeah, I was too, Bonnie. There are photos out there. If you ever get in the Wayback Machine, and maybe you'll find an old picture of me all Mansoned up in my teen years. Yeah, once a goth kid, always a goth kid. Yeah, I still have the black goth heart. Bonnie agrees with that. But yeah, like I said, David Lynch only did, like I said, 10 features in his career. A lot of short films. I don't know if any of you guys have seen any of his short films. I don't know how good or bad any of those were, but I've never seen any of them. There's an entire list of them here. Like I said, pretty much everything he did post early 2000s looks like short films. Some music videos. Like I said, he did the one here recently with Donovan. It's called I Am the Shaman, and that's one. 9 Inch Nails came back haunted. 2013 when that one came out. The one that I remember vividly, though, is Wicked Game, Chris Isaac, because I think Wicked Game was used in Wild at Heart. Love that fucking song. That's one I remember when I was little listening to, and it felt dirty. It felt like I was watching something I shouldn't. But yeah, they're just so many credits here. Just trying to find, just pick out different ones. documentaries, executive producer on some films. But yeah, what a career, man. David Lynch, what a career. And like I said, doing all of this, and I think that's the most impressive aspect of David Lynch's career to me, is the fact that he was able to do all of this stuff and do pretty much what he wanted to do. Like, nobody was really going to tell David Lynch, like, oh, you can't do that type of thing. Um, which I guess some studios probably tried, but I mean, just the fact that he would just, like I said, it's like Twin Peaks, you take it off into David Lynch land. The fact that he was able to do that, um, and could continue his career and continue making shit for years and years to come is really, really impressive. And I think is a testament to the guy that he was, and the personality that he was. And listening to a lot of his interviews and stuff, and just some of the off the wall shit he would say, and it wouldn't even be like he's trying to be weird or quirky or anything. He was just a unique character. He was just a unique cat with a unique perspective and a unique way to look at the world. And those are always the best artists, are the people that have a unique way of looking at the world. And it may not be, like I said, even like for me, for a lot of his work, like I couldn't see what he was seeing, but the fact that he saw something a certain way and presented it like Cronenberg's kind of like that. Like, some people just don't get into David Cronenberg that much. I guess I'm more on the David Cronenberg spectrum than the David Lynch spectrum. I don't know, but yeah, he had a vision. He saw the world in a certain way, and he made his art reflect that. And those are the best artists, and those are the artists that don't come around very often, and there aren't a whole lot of them left. And especially the more and more newer stuff that I see, there are very few filmmakers and directors that, have a unique vision, a unique way of interpreting the world. Everything's pretty much cookie cutter these days, in my opinion. But yeah, there was only one David Lynch. There'll never be another one like him. That's for damn sure. Yeah, that's another name. Mark Frost was a huge part of Twin Peaks season 1 and less on 2. Lynch crept in more in 2, so you can see the result. There you go. Yeah, that's a name, Mark Frost. I remember seeing a lot on the Twin Peaks credits. I didn't know how much involvement. I don't know a lot about Mark Frost or anything, but that's a name that I knew was involved. And I never knew how much involvement he had from season to season, but that makes total sense. So yeah, Synth does like Twin Peaks 2017. Well, I don't know. I might get around to watching that. Like, if I go back and rewatch, Firewalk with Me and then the first 2 seasons of Twin Peaks, and my opinion changes, then I'll give 3 a shot. But I have a feeling if I wasn't keen on season 2, I probably am not going to dig season 3 that much. Just from what I've heard about it. Steven Fernandez, what's up, Steven? Hola, Twin Peaks, The Return is sublime and just plain nuts. It kind of grew on me, and I love it now. The soundtrack is awesome. Trent has a song on it. There you go. Very cool. Yeah, like I said, maybe I'll give it a shot if I go back and revisit the original series. You never know. I always say this about when people say, "Oh, I don't like this, I don't like that." I like a lot of stuff now that I didn't like, 10, 15 years ago. And a lot of stuff I liked 10, 15 years ago, I don't really care for now. So as life goes on and our life experiences change who we are and change our perspective and our perception of the world, tastes change. So maybe it is time for me to go back and give Twin Peaks another chance. Maybe I'll look at it differently now than I did when I watched it 10, 15 years ago. So, since saying Lynch was far from safe, most producers like safe and easy money, hence the cookie cutters. He said, "Yep, exactly. You hit the nail on the head." Producers like safe and easy, which is not what David Lynch was at all, and not what Romero was. I mean, we're talking about Romero. I mean, Romero was not a safe and easy money type of director either. He had something that he wanted to say with it. So that's why, he kind of got shunned from the Hollywood system there. But Matt saying, yeah, Twin Peaks: The Return had a lot of good music on it too. There's an industrial metal band called The Uniform that I like a lot. They were used in it. I'll have to look them up. Also cool to see Nine Inch Nails on the show. Also, they were actually on the show, or Trent was. That's like the perfect combination there. It's like peanut butter and jelly is David Lynch and Trent Reznor. Like that's the perfect duo right there. Okay, they have a live performance at the Roadhouse. Oh, very cool. But yeah. So yeah, speaking of Matt, we'll transition here. Wanted to bring this up, give him a quick shout out. Meant to do this before we got into David Lynch, but we hit David Lynch first, so I'll go ahead and do this now. Want to give Mr. Matt Landrum a big shout out. The other day I come home from work, package sitting at my door. My fiance says, "Oh, you got a package out here." I'm like, "All right, cool. Maybe it's one of the things I've ordered off eBay or whatever here recently." Didn't know. Then I got it and saw that it was from my old buddy Matt. Opened it up, and Matt has sent me the original sound. Speaking of music and soundtracks, the original soundtrack, motion picture soundtrack for Phantasm, which we discussed when we did a stream not too long ago. We were talking about the Phantasms because Matt's a huge Phantasm fan, as am I, and both love the soundtrack. We were talking about how much I enjoyed the soundtrack and how I kind of wanted it one day, and just out of the blue, just shocked the teetotal hell out of me. Ended up sending me the original Baris Saraband original soundtrack from Phantasm by Fred Myro and Malcolm Seagrave. I was fucking blown away. Thank you so much, Matt. This is so cool. I texted him thanking him, but I wanted to do it on here, especially if that he's watching. Give him a big shout out. And he included a really, really touching letter along with it, and I really appreciated that. Damn near brought a tear to my eye. But yeah, I absolutely fucking love. It's one of my all-time favorite horror soundtracks. Is Phantasm, one I listen to every year for Halloween. Like that's a Halloween go-to is the fucking Phantasm soundtrack. So that totally made my week, Matt. Thank you so much, man. I really, really do appreciate it. Zombie Storms are very nice. It's a nice gift. Cool. Yeah. Like I said, I was blown away. Did not expect it. But like I said, I was expecting. Like I said, I got a stack of shit here that we can get into real quick. So we're not here all night. We've already been going for about an hour and a half. That's crazy. Like you guys make this shit go by so fast. I can't even tell you. But yeah, over the past few weeks, I purchased some different Blu-rays, some different releases, some different stuff here. A few Romero related stuff. A few Romero related stuff. Is that even English? Yeah. Messin, you're welcome. Glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, love it, man. Love it. Thank you so much. I owe you one day. So we'll just keep that in your back pocket. So yeah, I got a few Romero related items we can touch on here. And then I got a whole stack of shit here. Some things I haven't seen, some things I have. But a lot of new additions to the collection. They've had a lot of big end of the year sales at the Mega Replay, which is where I do most of my physical media shopping. I just can't justify dropping, the prices that a lot of these new releases cost when you buy them, directly from, the manufacturer, like Vinegar Syndrome or Kino or those types. Although they have some pretty good sales every now and then, but I love the hunt. I like going places and finding those little treasures that I was not expecting. And I ended up buying shit that I wasn't necessarily looking for, but then when you find it, you're like, oh shit, I gotta have this. I like the hunt. But a few Romero related items here that I picked up here recently that we can talk about here tonight. First thing, I guess, because I mentioned it last week on last week's stream, the history of Day of the Dead on home video in the U.S. I did finally get my media VHS release of Day of the Dead. Finally came in. It's not in the greatest shape. I mean, it's a pretty old tape, but it still has the bottom flap on it. That's a big plus. Um, like I said, I have a connection to this cover art. Always have. I've always wanted this, and then, like I said, I finally found a copy that was pretty cheap. Like I said, it's in pretty rough shape, so it wasn't too out of the question in terms of price. And you can tell it's an old rental copy. Be kind, please rewind. Which I don't know who watched this last, but they were not too fucking kind and didn't bother rewinding it. But that's okay. Um, so yeah, I got this in to add to the collection. Yeah, it's in pretty rough shape, but it is what it is. It does the trick for now. If I find a better copy somewhere down the road for a decent price, I'll upgrade and you know ship this off to. It'll be a prize in the next Romero trivia or something. I don't fucking know. The next thing I got is it's a Blu-ray of a documentary, Romero documentary that I've seen a couple of times now. It came out, when year did this come out? 2014. So it's about a 10-year-old documentary. But I think it's been available on Amazon Prime for quite some time. How many of you guys have seen Birth of the Living Dead documentary on Romero, Pittsburgh filmmaking, and the making of Night of the Living Dead? Um, it's a very good. I haven't owned it until now. This, you can tell this is a foreign release. I think it's a UK release, if I'm not mistaken. But it's one of the better Romero documentaries. Like I mentioned, I'm talking about Chasing Zombies and talking about the Resident Evil documentary. This is probably, from my experience, one of the better Romero documentaries to show a non-Romero fan. That will, cause from my experience, so my fiance, when I was showing her all of Romero, when we went to Pittsburgh for the first time, sat her down, we watched Night of the Living Dead, we watched Dawn of the Dead, we watched Day of the Dead, Land of the Dead. I showed her all of them, so she was aware of what we were going to look at, what we were seeing, blah blah. And she didn't really give a shit. She was just like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. They're horror movies, not my thing." So yeah, as we're in Pittsburgh, we're staying at a hotel in downtown Pittsburgh, and they have the Amazon thing that you can sign in on, and I saw that Birth of the Living Dead was on there to stream. So I turn on Birth of the Living Dead. So we're in this hotel downtown Pittsburgh. I'm showing her Pittsburgh and stuff, and I turn on Birth of the Living Dead, and we're watching it, and she's getting really, really invested in it. Like she's like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. And then she just looks at me and she's like, I get why you like. I kind of get why you like this stuff now. And I was like, oh, really? From like watching, she's like, yeah, watching this like kind of explains it to me, like the appeal of it. And of course, George is included in this documentary too. He's being interviewed in the documentary, and that's the first time that I think she had really seen George just talking. And she kind of saw the charm, and she kind of was like, I get why you like him now. He seems like the sweetest, nicest guy in the world. I'm like, yeah, he's it's George. So yeah, I would say Birth of the Living Dead is definitely one to show, like if you got a new girlfriend or a new boyfriend or something, and you're trying to explain to them, why do you like this shit? It's like show them this. I think it's a very good beginner doc for people that are just being introduced to this stuff. I think directed by Rob Coons. It's a name I'm not too familiar with, but yeah, it's kind of a hard release to find. Like I said, I think it was only released overseas, but I found this for a decent price on eBay, so I picked it up. What do you guys think? Have you guys seen Birth of the Living Dead? You guys fans of it? It's been a while since, I think the last time I saw it was in Pittsburgh in 2021 when I was watching it with her. So, but yeah, and it's got some cool little like animation, like illustrations and stuff where they're talking about the making of Night of the Living Dead, and they kind of go into the important. There's a lot of it that kind of makes a mountain out of a molehill in certain aspects of the kind, but where they kind of elaborate too much on certain aspects, where they're like, you're thinking about this way too much. But anyway, Birth of the Living Dead, check it out. It's available on Amazon Prime, I believe. Other thing I got. So Matt, you'll be proud of me. I bought a book, and it's one that I'm really, really looking forward to cracking open, really digging into. It's George A. Romero's Independent Cinema by Tom Fallows, Horror Industry and Economics. This is right up my alley. Like me and Matt joke all the time. I'm not the biggest reader, especially of especially fiction. I'm not a big I'm gonna read a Stephen King book or something. But like when it comes to like learning things and finding out shit, like that's the stuff I'm interested in. And I've been wanting to read this book for quite some time. And I was talking to Larry about the book yesterday, I believe. And it's actually based off of the writer of this book. Actually, it's based off of the what the hell is it called? His thesis or something like that he wrote in college about Romero, and he kind of expanded it into a full novel or a full book here. And just flipping through it here. Yeah, there's definitely going to be a lot to dig into. I'm really looking forward to checking this out. Have any of you guys read this book yet? It's kind of hard to find. I mean, this is the paperback version. It's cheaper, but the hardback version came out a couple of years ago, and it's hard to find that for less than $100 on eBay right now. So when I found this paperback version, I guess maybe just came out not too long ago, I had to pick it up quickly, and I'm definitely going to be digging into this very, very soon. And then I guess the last thing Romero related that I picked out, I found this today actually out in the wild. I already own it on 4K, the AGFA 4K that they put out a couple of years ago. But found this, had to buy it. It's effects on Blu-ray, and this is an AGFA release as well, but this is just the Blu-ray. Love effects. I think effects is insanely underrated. That may be a topic of discussion here soon. I really wanted to kind of dig into effects because I kind of went back, I don't know, last night before, and kind of rewatched some of effects, and I think if you guys haven't seen effects, it's a movie directed by Dusty Nelson. It's a Pittsburgh film, horror film, low budget horror film. Came out right like 1980, I think. Hardly any distribution. I think it came out, played a few theaters, and then disappeared for years. But directed by Dusty Nelson, it stars a young Joe Pilato, one of Joe Pilato's first roles, a young Tom Savini, one of his first roles, and one of the only roles that John Harrison played. And he plays kind of the villain in the movie, and they all do great. Like, I was noticing this watching it the other night, like Deborah Gordon, she's usually at Living Dead Weekend, and most people know her as one of the zombies in Dawn of the Dead, but she's got a role in this, and she's fantastic in it. Like, she's got movie star looks. Like, I'm kind of surprised that she didn't do more. But yeah, check it out. It's a very strange, very out there type of horror film. Like it's very A24-ish before A24 was a thing, I guess. But yeah, 1980. Yeah, it's really, really, really good horror film. What all does this have on it? Oh, this actually has the After Effects documentary too that Felcher directed, which is a really interesting documentary. George is in it, Pat Buba, John Harrison, and it's really interesting stuff. So if you guys haven't checked out Effects, check it out. I think you can find this Blu-ray now for a fairly decent price ever since that 4K came out. But yeah, those are just some of the Romero-related stuff that I've gotten here recently. Brett saying love Phantasm and its soundtrack. It's awesome vinyl. Yes, I fully agree. It's one of the most iconic like horror themes ever, I think. Down as up saying, just seeing that brings back a flood of memories. I saw that, yeah. Um, and then she asked to watch Blue Velvet again. No, she never wanted to watch that again. Uh, so you haven't seen Birth of the Living Dead, man? Check it out. It's on. I'm pretty sure it's still on Amazon Prime. Last I saw it, if it's either on Amazon Prime or Shutter, because I have both and I can't ever keep track of what's on what. So I'll tell people sometimes like, oh, it's on Amazon. They're looking, it's like, no, it's not. I'm like, oh, fuck it, Shutter. But I'm pretty sure it's on Amazon Prime right now. Um, it's definitely worth checking out. It's definitely a fun documentary. Um, Down as Up said, could you believe that Phantasm and Dawn of the Dead came out in the same summer, 1979? Yeah, that's pretty great. Like 78, 79, like 77, 78, 79, and 80, really. Like just the classic fucking horror films that came out at that time. And it was like that perfect transition there from the 70s into the 80s. And it was just like ripe for all of, like those filmmakers to start, like John Carpenter. You know, you had Halloween in 78, Alien, Phantasm, Dawn of the Dead, The Shining, Friday the 13th, The Hills Have Eyes in 77, Suspiria. I mean, all of those filmmakers that came out of that time period, like that was their, I don't know, that was like their big boom moment. Like that catapulted all of them into the 80s. Was that late 70s, early 80s time period there. Matt said, you know what's funny? After watching Brandon's doc and hearing Jim Crett talk about our Living Dead family, I turned to my wife and said, now do you see why this means so much to me? Yeah. What did she say? Did she say no? You fucking weirdos. Um, yeah, do you understand why we make this trip to Pittsburgh every year? She just looked at me and smiled and said, yes, I do. Well, there you go. Yeah. It's hard for people to understand. Like I was chatting with Larry about this earlier. We were talking about the Living Dead weekend, the future of the mall, and all that. And I really do hope that whoever ends up is the buyers of the mall, whatever company or whoever's going to own the mall next, can see that this year with Living Dead weekend, and kind of see like, oh, it brings all these people to this mall and they kind of celebrate the mall, and it's kind of like this built-in thing. Like it really is just like a community of people that from all over, like all around the world, that will come to this mall and hang out and kind of share this really, like, like you mentioned, like it's a niche interest. It's a niche thing to be this into, a filmmaker or a movie or, all that type of stuff. And, but yeah, it really is just like a little Living Dead family, and I hope it continues. And I hope there's something, there's got to be something that brings us all together once a year, Zombie Historian saying, regarding Birth of the Living Dead, I streamed it, including a few quotes from it in my dissertation. There you go. Very cool. Yes, I do read every now and then. If I find something to read, like if I'm motivated to read something, I'll read it. Like the Making of Day of the Dead. Like that was just a fucking, but yeah, I'm just not like, oh, I want to read a new story that somebody else wrote. It's like, I don't know. I just, but I'd waited so long to finally get that book. I guess, when the hardcover came out, like it's like I told Larry, I was like, I just couldn't convince myself to spend that type of money on something that I'm going to be, using most of the time in the shitter type of thing, like I don't want to, this $100 book, yeah, I'm becoming an adult. I'm reading now. Since to be fair, that Romero book has really big text. Yeah, and there's a lot of pictures in it too. So don't be too proud of me yet. So take it easy on him. We're just now graduating from colors and shapes and moving into words, baby steps. Well, hey, talking about pooping in the potty for the first time. I'm working my way up to that too. So, we're all growing. We're all changing. We're all getting better here. Since as effects was cool, the Felcher talk is fun. I wonder if the maker of the 80s movie FX saw effects first. Some ideas could have been taken from there. I don't know if I've ever seen FX. But yeah, effects has some, the story, the concept of effects is great. Like it's really low budget and there's some rough parts to it, but it's really really well made, really well acted, and the writing, like it's one of those movies that after you watch it for the first time, go back and watch it again. And then, it's one of those movies that you got to watch it more than once to kind of fully appreciate all the nuance and the little hints and stuff throughout the movie that kind of tells you where the movie's going that you don't really pick up on the first time you watch it, or I didn't at least. Um, Brett saying Joe Pilato and John Harrison had amazing performances and effects. Yeah, I agree. Joe Pilato is such a great actor that everybody knows him as this loud, boisterous, dictator type of character, Captain Rhodes from Day of the Dead. But he's the the main good guy in effects, and he's just like this normal, like likable guy in effects, and he's just like a complete 180 from the role that he plays in Day of the Dead. But he plays it so well; it's so convincing. And John Harrison, I mean, I told John Harrison this when I met him at Living Dead Weekend a couple of years ago. I was like, I really, really like your performance in effects. And he just kind of smirked and was just like, yeah, I guess if you can call it a performance, But it really is, and it is a very deadpan performance. Because he is kind of playing a psychotic character, but he pulls it off so well because he does come across as like this psychotic rich boy type character there's the wheels are always turning, but he doesn't really show it type of thing. But yeah, I love effects. Also, Harrison's score is haunting. Great Romero adjacent film. Every Romero fan should see. Absolutely. I fully agree with that one. Which may be a video that I'll be doing soon, or maybe I'll do it as a live stream. I was thinking about doing it tonight, but I can kind of run out of time there in terms of prep for it. But is films that every Romero fan should see. Not Romero films, but films, if you're a Romero fan, films that you should see. I think that would be an interesting topic of discussion there. Pop-up books. So yeah, all right, guys, come on. Be nice. Y'all just beat me up here, Since then, was an effect shot at the same red carpeted TV station from Dawn for the downstairs scenes? I don't think so, but I thought about that when I was watching it the other night because there is a scene that's just like all red carpet in the little studio area. And I thought that I was like, wow, it looks very familiar, but I don't think it is, but I could be wrong. That might be more of a question for John Vulo to figure out. Or Larry. Larry would probably know because I think Larry's a big effects fan. Kidding. Yeah. I know you are. I just thought you'd be proud of me because I bought a book, and it doesn't have big pictures. I wonder if they have an audiobook. Does that count if I listen to audiobooks? Because I could totally do that. I could totally down some audiobooks. I was thinking about that. That's something I should probably look into. Because if I work, I drive around at work most of my time, so I'm usually listening to podcasts or something like that. But anyway, I'll read it. I'll read it, so I get full credit for it. It's kind of like the old accelerated reader thing back in the day. I don't know if you guys had that when we were kids, but we had the accelerated reader. If you however many books you read, you got points, and however many points you gained by the end of the school year, you got like a free Pizza Hut certificate or something like that. And we used to fucking fight for those fucking Pizza Hut. You get the free personal pan pizza coupons and shit. Like we we were like in a race to see who could read the most goddamn books to get a hold of those personal pan pizzas from Pizza Hut, man. And I'm talking about the good Pizza Hut, like the Pizza Hut from back in the day with the red cups and the jukebox and the salad bar and the good days of Pizza Hut. I don't know what the fuck happened to Pizza Hut over the past few years, but I haven't had it in for hell and ever. So, but but yeah. All right. So, as I mentioned, over the past few weeks, probably since the end of last year, actually, I have made quite a few physical media purchases, and I'll try to go through these fairly quickly. So, like I said, I have a pretty big stack here. And one we just mentioned, I just talked about forever, but I'll go ahead and show it. I finally upgraded. I had the DVD. I've had the DVD forever, never upgraded. And I know Criterion has a version of this out that is probably a better version to own. But I did pick up Blue Velvet on Blu-ray today, finally. It's one of those that I haven't really seen a whole lot, but I did find it today. Did pick up. And this is just the MGM standard version that came out 2011, I guess is the date on this. But yeah, like I said, I know Criterion put out a release of this. I'll light down back there, but whatever the hell. So yeah, I may upgrade to the Criterion at some point, but for right now, I needed to own this on Blu-ray, so made sure to pick that up. Now here's one that I have not seen. The lighting, it feels kind of dark in here. I don't know why the lighting is done. I know I got a light out back there, but whatever. It's hot as all hell. Just turn a fan on. Anyway, this is one I've never seen before, but I found it on Blu-ray today. It's an Umbrella release. I guess it's UK probably, but it's one of those classics from the 80s that I've never seen, but need to. That is The Blob on Blu-ray from Umbrella. It's a weird release. I never really seen before. I feel like, let me change the lighting here. I feel like it got kind of dark. Either that or I'm losing my mind. Let me change that a little better. No, now I look like Nosferatu. Anyway, just so you guys can see here you go. That's a little better. But yeah, The Blob from Umbrella. Never seen it. That's one of those classic like 80s remakes that came out around the time that I never saw. So directed by Chuck Russell, screenplay by Chuck Russell and Frank Darabont. So I mean that's pretty cool. Kevin Dillon, Shawnee Smith. I remember the rumor for a while there was Rob Zombie was going to make another version of The Blob after he made The Devil's Rejects, I think, but that never came to be. But what do you guys think of The Blob? Fans of The Blob? Yay, nay, good pickup, bad pickup? What do you think? I'll save this one because I got I'll do that one here in a second because I got the other ones here. Anyway, this is something I'd never heard of before. I didn't even know was out, but it's a Kino Lorber release. And I'm a huge Gene Wilder fan. And I had no idea that this even existed, but I found it today. It's called Remembering Gene Wilder. It's a documentary on Gene Wilder. Never even heard of it. Didn't know that it was, was a thing, but it's a Kino Lorber release. What's that? So yeah, really looking forward to seeing this because I love Gene Wilder. Like I grew up on Gene Wilder. I grew up a big Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory fan. Grew up a big, Young Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles, and even all the stuff he did with Richard Pryor. Hear No Evil or See No Evil, Hear No Evil. The producers, even like his Mel Brooks stuff. Like I love Gene Wilder. That's one of my all-time favorite actors. And I had no idea that there was a documentary out, but when I saw this, I had to pick it up. Remembering Gene. If you guys seen it, fans of Gene Wilder out there, familiar with this documentary? Yeah, definitely synth. I got the Lynchian lighting going on today. I got shit going out. I think my main light is kind of dying for some reason. I have it plugged in, but geez. What's up, man? Oliver 656 in the house. What's up? Yo, he says. God, now I'm starting to look blue. Now I'm starting to turn violet. Pepsi bought Pizza Hut and it ain't pizza anymore. Yeah, I can buy that. Um, another pickup today that I got. This is a Criterion release of a movie that I've never seen, but I've always wanted to see. Um, and that's Shallow Grave, directed by Danny Boyle from 1994. I've always heard about this movie, and of course, you guys know I'm a big 28 Days Later fan. Some of Danny Boyle's other stuff's pretty hit or miss with me, like Train Spotting. I never really gravitated to. I know people love Slumdog Millionaire, but that just didn't never did it for me. Like when I saw because it won the Academy Award that year, and I was just like, why? Like I didn't get it when I watched it. I was like, this is not great. Like I don't get it. Um, but this is one. I think this is like his first like feature film, if I'm not mistaken. Um, yeah, first film from director Danny Boyle, producer Andrew McDonald. Um, so yeah, Shallow Grave is one that I've always wanted to check out. I've always heard good things about. Danny Boyle's first film. Um, so yeah, looking forward to checking that one out. It's got that's what the inside here, the Criterion release. And I love Criterion. Anything Criterion. Like if I'm out somewhere and I see Criterion, like even if it's some shit I've never heard of, I always look at it. And if it's priced decently, I'll get it, just to take the chance that maybe it's something worthwhile. Perfect example of that, I picked up Lars von Trier's Antichrist. It was the Criterion rule. I've never seen it, didn't really know anything about it, but I was like, hey, it's decent, good price, Criterion, and it's Lars von Trier, so I'll watch it. And then 5 minutes in, I'm watching Willem Dafoe's dick, a close up of Willem Dafoe's dick, and I was just like, yep, this is Criterion, all right. Um, Matt Sand found 2 off-the-wall DVD copies of Night of the Living Dead today at a Second and Charles, same place I found the Korean Dawn of the Dead DVD. I heard Jeff Turner say that there's more copies of Night of the Living Dead on DVD than VHS. I fully believe that, because that was the very first DVD I ever bought, was one of those Night of the Living Dead DVDs. It was like Hollywood Classics or something like that is what it was called. But yeah, there's a ton out there, like a ridiculous amount. It's like I said, if I ever tried to do like a history of Night of the Living Dead on home video, like that would just be an impossible task. Like there's literally a book out there, guys. Like just track the book down; it'll tell you all about it. Yeah, Kevin Dillon version, Blob remake is fun. Bonnie's saying it's good. So yeah, I'm looking forward to finally checking that out. I just never. It's like the Blob. It just sounds corny. You know what I mean? Like growing up. Oh, now I lost my light. Hang on. I'm having lighting issues. There's always something, guys. There's always something. I don't know why this is fucking up like that. All right, 2 seconds. 2 seconds. It's on a block, but maybe that block's not working. Let me try something else here. So you guys can see me. I'm in the dark. I'm just. I don't know. Maybe you guys don't want to see me. It's always something. I figure one thing out and get it working, and then something else goes wrong. But it's a one-man show, guys. It's a one-man crew. All right, hang on a second. I don't need that, I don't think. Bear with me. I think we got. Yep. Okay. Now we have some light. Don't knock that over. Okay. I think that'll do for now. I don't know why everything is dying on me tonight. What is this? Maybe that fucking thing doesn't work anymore. Anyway, where the hell were we? Since saying Wilder was great. Yeah, I think Gene Wilder was a genius in a certain way, and I think that he was. I don't look at Gene Wilder as like a brilliant comedic actor because he wasn't really a comedic actor. He's pretty much a guy that would play a role straight that was like comedically written, like a brilliant, um, like Mel Brooks's brilliant screenplays and stuff. Um, I don't know. Gene Wilder just had a way of playing something completely straight and making you totally believe it and being absolutely hilarious. Love Gene Wilder. Brett said, I'm a fan of the 80s Blob remake. The effects are great, terrifying compared to the 50s classic. Yeah. Yeah, looking forward to it. Down is up saying, I love Gene Willy Wonka Wilder. I've never heard him put it that way. Gene, that sounds like an old Dusty Rhodes jobber name. It's like, it's Gene Willy Wonka Wilder, baby. But yeah, who doesn't love Willy Wonka? I mean, come on. Okay, Bonnie Cena, and you enjoyed the Gene Wilder dog? Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm pretty excited about it. Bonnie Cena saw Shallow Grave years ago. It was good. Okay, yeah, I've heard good things about it. I mean, it was kind of the movie that started. I mean, I guess it was the movie that started Danny Boyle's career. I guess Trainspotting is more the movie that kind of launched him into stardom or whatever. But yeah, I've always heard good things about Shallow Grave. Since Anne Von Trier is an acquired taste. Yeah, you could say that. You could say that. You want to see Danny Boyle remake Midnight? I mean, I think there's a good idea to Midnight. I think with the right filmmaker and a budget, I think Midnight would work. I don't give a shit. I don't like Midnight, as flawed and goofy as it is. All right, what else we got here? Another one that I've never seen, believe it or not. But I just watched. I had seen the first two many times. I grew up on those movies, but I've never seen this one because I've always heard such bad things about it. And that is Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I've never actually watched Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. I love Mad Max, and I really like The Road Warrior. I like Mad Max better. Mad Max is more of an indie, I don't know, car chase movie, whereas like Road Warrior is more, it's got a bigger budget. It's more Americanized, I guess. But anytime I've ever heard anybody talk about Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, it's like, wow, what a huge step down, because it's got Tina Turner's in it, and it's like a whole other thing. So, but I got it to kind of complete the set because I have Mad Max and I have the Road Warrior, and I'm not the biggest fan of the new ones like Fury Road and all that. Like I never really caught on to me, but I had to get it just because I had the other two. So I'll watch it at some point, but I've just never heard very many good things about Beyond Thunderdome. And this is one I haven't seen in for hell and ever. Is Candyman: Farewell to the Flesh, starring the late Tony Todd. I love the original Candyman. The original Candyman I've seen bunches and bunches of times. But the sequels, I never really went back to very often. Farewell to the Flesh, and then I think the third one was called like Day of the Dead. Funny enough. So this is one I need to go back and give another watch. It's probably been 25 years since I've seen this Candyman. So it's one I need to go back and give another watch for sure. Just for Tony Todd, if nothing else. I'll try to run through these and I'll get you guys' comments here in just a second. This is one that I was turned on to on a stream not too long ago with Paul and Synth. Watched for the first time, and that's Michael Mann's Thief with the soundtrack from Tangerine Dream. So after hearing you guys talk about it, I ended up finding this at Mega Replay, and I was like, holy shit, I got to get it. The bad thing about this is I've seen the first half of this movie, and I absolutely love it. But for some reason, this disc, and of course I buy these used, which kind of sucks. Uh, but it gets halfway through the movie, and then the fucking thing freezes, and then it just takes you back to this, the main screen. And I tried cleaning it, I tried everything, it just does not work. So I've only seen the first half of Thief. I'm looking forward to seeing the second half because the first half was right up my fucking alley. I was loving every fucking minute of it. And then it fucking fell apart halfway through, and I was really, really pissed off about that. But I do have this now. I have half of Thief on and that's the Arrow release too. And I think it's a region B, maybe. It's an overseas release. I want to say it's the UK region B, but yeah, pick that up. And then in my opinion, one of John Carpenter's most underrated films. And it's one that I haven't seen in quite a while. And I plan on going back and rewatching again here, and that's Prince of Darkness from John Carpenter, 1980. What was this? 87? Yeah, 1987. Yeah, 87. Very underrated John Carpenter film. Maybe one of his last great films. Because what after this would you really consider? Like, I guess maybe In the Mouth of Madness is probably the only one after this that I would consider a great John Carpenter film, unless I'm forgetting something in the 90s. But but Prince of Darkness to me always had the one scene that fucking freaked me the fuck out the first time I saw Prince of Darkness was when they're watching the video footage and the figure in the doorway of the church. I don't know if you guys have seen it. You know what I'm talking about. Freaked me the fuck out the first time I saw it. And I was, pretty young the first time I saw this one. So seeing that, and still to this day, like, it's a very effective scene. It's one of the more effective, like, creepy, like, shots in a John Carpenter movie, oddly enough. But yeah, this is the Scream Factory release, and of course it has the flip art. It's got the the Scream Factory art. But as I do with pretty much every Scream Factory or Arrow release, because they all have the original artwork on the opposite side, so I always flip them because I always just prefer the original artwork on these things. So it's a nice thing to have, that you'd be able to do that. And this is one that I found that's pretty rare, apparently. It's not... I think it's an overseas release, too, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a movie I've seen quite a few times because they used to play it all the fucking time back in the day on, like, Cinemax, if I remember. Me and my sister used to watch it quite a bit. Probably more than the original, actually. I've probably seen this more than the original, but it's been a very long time, and I'm going to go back and revisit it here soon now that I own it. But that is The Fly 2 Special Edition, Like Father, Like Son. Now, this is not David Cronenberg. It's a completely different... who directed this? Directed by Chris Wallace is the director on this one. Not the same quality, not the same standard as the original for sure. But I remember growing up watching it, and we always really kind of dug The Fly 2. It's a little more, I don't know, over the top, I guess, and not so Cronenberg-ish, I guess is the word I'm looking for. But yeah, this is who put this out? Vista Vision, I think, or no, Via Vision. Via Vision put this out. I don't know what year, but 2017. But this is a movie that's really hard to find on Blu-ray now. I see them on eBay, and the Blu-ray goes for quite a bit of money. I think Scream Factory did a release of this back in the day. It may be out of print now, which is why I'm seeing them go up in price now. But I don't see this version very often. So found this, picked it up. The Fly 2. What do you guys think? Are you guys fans of The Fly 2? Like I said, it's not as good as Cronenberg's for sure, but it's a fun little sequel from the late 80s. Got a few comments here. Let me hit you guys real quick. Bunny saying it's Hollywood Mad Max, but it's not bad. Okay. Sensei and Thunderdome is a rough watch in many ways, but some good scenes in it. There you go. Matt saying, Master Blaster, it's definitely not the best. Nothing will beat Road Warrior. Okay, so Matt's more of a Road Warrior guy. Yeah, I love Road Warrior. I love the Road Warrior, but the original Mad Max to me is just so weird. Like, it feels very, very indie. Because I guess it was an independent, Australian made movie at the time. Trying to fix this light. I just feel like this lighting's got me all fucked up, guys. I apologize. But yeah, I love the first two. Probably prefer Mad Max, the original Mad Max, over the Road Warrior. But the Road Warrior, I mean, those movies are perfect. Like, Road Warrior is the perfect like length to a movie. Like, there's no fat in that movie whatsoever. Like, it doesn't linger too long on anything. It's just like, okay, this is where we're going, and they fucking go. Like, there's no stopping. There's no bumps in the road. It's just kind of, well, no pun intended there. But yeah, so I've just never heard anybody really put over Beyond Thunderdome. So I never really went out of my way to see it, but I found it, on Blu-ray for pretty cheap. So I was like, I'll go ahead and grab it. We'll see. I'll build an opinion. Since big Virginia Madsen fan, I think we all are. Bonnie saying Road Warrior's pretty fantastic. Since Antifa's great and teaches you how to rob a bank. That's true. Well, I've only gotten halfway through, so I'm still only halfway through my education. But once I finally finish it, you guys will know, because I'll actually have some decent lighting in here. Goddammit. Matt saying my dad loved Mad Max. We used to watch them together all the time. I took my son to see Road Warrior at the Plaza. Oh, that's awesome. At the Plaza Theater a few years back. Felt like a full circle moment. That's really fucking cool, man. I'd love to see the Road Warriors one. Like, any of those, I'd love to see in the theater. I've never seen it on the big screen. But yeah, that's pretty damn cool. Rick loves Mad Max series and the universe. Always wanted a Ford Falcon like the one he drove in the movie, like the General Lee from Dukes of Hazzard or the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars. The vehicles are iconic. Yeah, the Interceptor. Is that what you're talking about? Gotta love the Interceptor. Matt says, yes, love Prince of Darkness. Underrated Carpenter for sure. One of my fall season go-tos. Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, it's been quite a while since it's probably been, I mean, it's not been too long. Probably 5 or 6 years, probably since the last time I saw it. But yeah, it's a good one. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know. Can you guys think of any ones that came out after? Because it was 87. So yeah, you're right. Brett's pointing out Carpenter's They Live came out in 88. That's true. They Live is definitely a good Carpenter. Post Prince of Darkness. I always get those mixed up. I always think Prince of Darkness came after They Live for some reason. But yeah, everybody loves They Live for sure. Here's a different take. Since says really wanted to like Prince of Darkness, score not great, and too many story/dialogue issues for me. Okay, there you go. Got the competing opinion on Prince of Darkness there, John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness. Bonnie saying I rewatched Prince of Darkness just a while back. Still thought it was excellent. There you go. Rick says he just watched Prince of Darkness yesterday. So I'm on topic, guys. I know what you guys are watching. I had the guy talking the other day that he was having a discussion with his friend about Susanna Sparrow, and now all of a sudden I drop a video about Susanna Sparrow. You guys don't know, but I'm secretly spying on all of you, like a Chinese TikToker. Rest in peace. Like a Chinese spy on TikTok. That's what I'm doing. You guys just don't know. So yeah, They Live was 88. So yeah, that would have been post Prince of Darkness. Since saying the pseudoscience mumbo jumbo and Prince of Darkness is also a turnoff. Yeah, but I mean, come on, you gotta. I give some. I guess just because I don't know as much about that type of shit as you do, but I can look past a lot of that stuff. Like if it makes sense for the story that it's trying to tell, like, all right, I'll go with you. We're in the land of make believe. Zombie Historian says, if anyone is a fan of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, check out the novel Ridley Walker. The film is definitely inspired by it. Okay, there you go. Ridley Walker. Never heard of it. Prince Alice Cooper cameo. Yeah. Since then, Fly 2 is entertaining, but so very different from Cronenberg. The effects are still good. Chris Wallace. Yeah. Chris Wallace was the director on that one. Yeah, it's God almighty. I can't keep lighting. Why is this not working? I don't know. We'll do what we can here. I've never had this issue with this fucking light before. Till now. I don't know. We'll keep fighting it. We'll see what happens. Did you ever follow the wrestling duo, the Road Warriors? Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm very familiar with the Road Warriors. Animal and Hawk. Road Warriors. Yeah, love the Road Warriors. Legion of Doom back in the day. Rick saying Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome was a favorite of mine with Tina Turner and the stunts chase scene near the end. Okay, so you guys are kind of talking me into some Beyond Thunderdome a little bit here. So I'm a little bit more looking forward to finally watching it now than I was before. Since it's funny how they make a big deal out of V8 engines in Mad Max. I drove several V8s in high school. Blake, what's going on, man? Blake Allen's in the house. Hello, glad to catch another live stream. Well, man, you caught the wrong one because you're not going to be able to see me very often because the light keeps fucking going out. But I'm fighting. We're pushing forward, pushing ahead. Matt saying, yeah, fast muscle cars and high octane violence. What's not to love about Mad Max? Yeah, for real. It's a man's movie. Blake saying Prince of Darkness was very good. You have to suspend belief and put yourself in that situation. Yeah. That's most horror movies, though. You gotta, to be honest, like most horror movies are pretty out there, pretty outrageous. All right, got a few more here I can show off, talk about a little bit here. If we don't lose light first, if you guys can see the shit. But finally picked up the Arrow version of Hellraiser 2, Hellbound, which to me is the best Hellraiser in the series. I think this is the best Hellraiser movie in the entire series. Like, I love the first Hellraiser, but to me, it's Clive Barker, I don't think was up to the task of directing Hellraiser. I mean, great writer, no doubt about it, but I felt like it was missing something, and Tony Randall, I guess, was the director of this one. Not too familiar with him, but this is probably my favorite of the Hellraiser series is Hellraiser 2. And I didn't own this before. There's the inside there, but I've been meaning to pick this up. The Arrow Blu-ray, finally did, and also came across Hellraiser 3, and this is like a weird. It's I guess it's a Spanish release. It looks like Spanish, but yeah, I think this from Spain, I believe, is this Hellraiser 3. And I watched this again the other day for the first time, and I don't know how long, and I completely forget that there's cameo appearances in this from Sharon Hill and Clayton Hill. Clayton plays the priest at the end of the movie, and Sharon plays the nurse at the beginning, which is funny because Nurse Zombie from Dawn of the Dead, and she's playing a nurse in Hellraiser 3. Totally forgot all about that when I was watching. I was like, holy shit! I didn't realize that it was Sharon at first. But when I saw Clayton, I was like, holy shit, it's Clayton Hill. I forgot that he's in this fucking movie. But this is a fun one too. Like Hellraiser 3, I don't think it's quite up to par with the first two. But I do enjoy it. It is entertaining. It's definitely different. It's definitely Hellraiser for the 90s, I guess is the best way to put it. So yeah, glad to have this. If for nothing else, then to own Sharon and Clayton's cameos in this movie. It's pretty fucking awesome. And then I got this one, which I have never seen, but it's part of the collection, so I got it. Hellraiser Bloodline, which if if a sequel has, it's called Bloodline, it's going to be good. Have you guys noticed that? I know they joke about that on Dead Pit all the time, but if you guys notice that every sequel now is something Bloodline, Hellraiser Bloodline, Pet Cemetery Bloodlines. There's the new Final Destination coming out this year called Final Destination Bloodlines. Like, is that like the word of the day now? Because like the biggest storyline in wrestling right now is the Bloodline story. It's like why is that word the most popular thing on earth right now? Like, why is that everything now? It's weird. But by God, I think this was the first. This is like 96, I think, when this came out. So this was the first Bloodline. Unless there's another sequel called Bloodline out there that I'm forgetting. But yeah, 1996. Haven't heard very many good things about this one, to be honest with you. But I had to get it to go with the rest because I have the first three, and I'm going to buy this one. And everything past part 3, I've never really gave a shit about. But, collecting, you know how it is. I got 3 more here. I'm gonna try to get them out before the light goes out. I owned this on Blu-ray before, but found the 4K version of this, and I saw Larry posting about it on Facebook just the other day, so I'm looking forward to checking it out. But it's The Exorcist on 4K. Been wanting to see this for quite a while. What else is there to say about The Exorcist? I mean, it's one of the greatest horror movies of all time. It's one of those movies that every adult warned me about growing up because they saw that I was kind of into horror movies, and they were like, okay, you can watch, Tales from the Dark Side and stuff, but don't watch The Exorcist. Like, that'll fuck you up. Like, you're not allowed to watch The Exorcist. So when I finally did see The Exorcist for the first time, I was like, really? Like, I was kind of disappointed. But over the years, like I grew to love the movie more and more and more. And I think the thing about The Exorcist that works so well that Friedkin does that I don't think people talk about enough is that this movie doesn't play out like your typical horror movie. Like it doesn't play like the beats. Like it's not your typical horror movie. It plays just kind of like a regular movie, but like really horrendous, horrific things happen. So it kind of gives the audience this weird sense of security, and then it takes you into fucking exploitation, Ville. And that, I think it's brilliantly made somehow in that way. But yeah, it's the fucking Exorcist. What else can you say? But looking forward to checking out the 4K transfer on that. And this is one I had never seen before until recently, until picking this up. Watched it the other night and absolutely fucking loved it. And that is Frank Henenlotter's Brain Damage, the Arrow video release. This is from what year did this come out? 1988, I think. Yeah, 1988, Brain Damage. You guys Frank Henenlotter fans? I think I like this because I really, really enjoyed this movie, and I think I might like it better than Basket Case, believe it or not. I like Basket Case all right, but for some reason this one just kind of hit all the notes that I was hoping it would hit. Great body horror type movie, like some really gross shit in there. It's a really fun, gross horror movie. If you guys haven't seen it, check it out. It's Frank Henenlotter's Brain Damage. Very, very cool movie, and a really cool release too. There's a lot of nice bonus features and stuff included on this. Like it's one of those movies that I liked so much that I immediately after the movie was over went and started watching a lot of the bonus features and stuff on it to try to learn more about it. But yeah, what do you guys think? Brain Damage, you guys fans? I got one more here, and I know Matt's a big fan of this one. I think we've talked about it already. I texted him about it, and I finally got around to watching it. You guys know I'm a Fulci fan. I like Fulci, but there's one Fulci film that I just, for some reason, kept missing out on. Never got around to watching it until recently. I saw Phantasmat. You guys, if you watch Dead Pit, you're probably familiar with Phantasmat. Saw he was selling his copy of this. So I was like, hey, send it to me. I'll buy it. So I can finally fucking watch it. And that's Lucio Fulci's Don't Torture a Duckling from 1972. And this is one that everybody always puts over. Everybody always talks about how great it is, and it's one of the best giallos ever made, and yada yada yada. And I was like, all right, I'm gonna watch it. We'll see. How does it compare to Argento? How does it compare to Mario Bava? And I gotta say, and I told Matt this. This may be my new favorite Lucio Fulci film. And I love zombie. I love, the Gates of Hell trilogy, The Beyond, House by the Cemetery, New York Ripper, Zombie 3. Fucking I love Fulci, don't get me wrong. But this seriously, and I know this was Fulci's favorite film that he ever did. He said this was his best film, and I kind of tend to agree. Like, this was a brilliant. If you guys haven't seen it, if you like Italian horror, if you like Italian giallos, stuff like that, if you like Argento, like Deep Red and stuff like that. But even if you don't, like, check it out. Like, it's really fucking good. It's Don't Torture a Duckling, 1972, Lucio Fulci. Really fucking good. And you talk about some taboos being broken in this movie. Like, this is, again, you can say this about pretty much any Fulci film ever. But it's one of those movies that would never get made today. There's a lot of kid death in this movie. It's so well put together and so well laid out that it kind of gives you the cast of characters and kind of gives you like, oh, it could be this person because of A, B, and C, or it could be this person because of A, B, and C, and then it kind of, as it plays out through the movie, it's kind of hard to tell where it's going. Like, you don't it's a good giallo when you can't pick out who the hell the killer was in the first 15-20 minutes. And this is definitely one of those. Highly recommend it. Don't Torture a Duckling. This is the Arrow version. I think this is a region B release, but check it out. I think there's a 4K of this coming out soon, so I might end up having to pick that up. But yeah, Don't Torture a Duckling, Lucio Fulci. Big recommendation from me. But yeah, that's what I picked up here lately. What are you guys thinking about Fulci or Brain Damage or Hellraiser or any other shit I put up there? Let me see where we were here. Since saying Hellraiser 2 is the best skinless character ever, yeah, I would give it that award. You have won the award for best skinless character. Wait a minute. I think we have our first super chat in the history of the Alpha Romero channel. And in honor of that, I'm going to hit you guys with this.
You never know. Money. Right.
Zombie Historian, $20 super chat. Thank you so much, man. That is so cool. I really appreciate that. Brain Damage was such a fun film. Love the old couple in it that tried to imprison Aylmer. Yeah. Yeah. Brain Damage is a great film. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. My very first super chat. I very much appreciate it. Thank you so much, sir. And you never know. You know what they say. Very cool. Thank you very much, Zombie Historian. All right. Where do I leave off here? Maybe I can take that super chat money and buy some adequate lighting for the next stream. Okay, we were right here on Zombie Historian. Any thoughts on Barker's Nightbreed? That's one I haven't seen. That one's got got the cameo from Cronenberg in it, right? And that's one I saw for sale here recently at the local Mega Replay, and I just completely missed out on it. But yeah, that's one I definitely want to check out. I've heard that's one of those movies I've heard good things and bad things about. Some people love it, some people hate it. So So yeah, that when I hear that, when people are split on something, whether they like it or don't, like that's what intrigues me. I'm like, okay, am I gonna like this or I'm gonna hate it? I don't know. Um, Steven saying just bought Prince of Darkness on digital. I loved it since I was a kid. There you go. Um, Matt saying that's what I'm implying. I feel like vehicles in general are rare. Okay, still talking about Mad Max. Got off on a big Mad Max conversation tonight. Matt saying I've got to get up for work in about 4.5 hours. Talk to you guys later. Have a great night. Well, thanks a lot, Matt. I appreciate it. And again, thank you for the Phantasm soundtrack too. Thanks again for that, man. That's really fucking awesome. Get a little bit of sleep. Hope you have a good day at work tomorrow, my man. See, Synth also thought it was poorly written and acted, besides the disbelief part. So Synth is not a Prince of Darkness fan. Learned that tonight. I'm saying about a Matt. Since Exorcist 3 is wild, those metal shears. Yeah, Exorcist 3, that's one that I didn't watch for the longest time because, again, growing up, that was one of those that was like, oh, don't watch Exorcist 3. It has nothing to do with the original type of thing. It's like when people say don't watch Halloween 3 or, those movies that, when you finally do watch them, you're like, wow, these are awesome. This movie's great. What are these people talking about? So, yeah, when I finally got around to watching Exorcist 3 for the first time, I was blown away. I was like, this is really fucking like a really fucking good movie. Like, I don't care if it has anything really to do with the first one, which I guess it technically does, but it's not like, oh, here's Reagan and let's pull out the old characters, kind of like what they do now. But it's its own contained thing, but I think it's brilliant. Yeah, original Extras has some fine Dick Smith effects, yeah, for sure. The Aylmer, yeah. Frankenhooker, I've not seen that yet. I was actually talking to Larry about that not too long ago because he was recommending Frankenhooker. So yeah, that's definitely one I need to watch too. I'm trying to think what the other Hen and Lauder film is. But if it's anything like Brain Damage or Basket Case, I'm probably gonna like, because I like Basket Case a lot too. I thought that was, a fun, really low budget little horror movie that really accomplished way more than it should have with the budget that it had. But yeah, Brain Damage was just a lot of fun. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit earlier, man. Blake saying Sean Clark did a recent video showing Night of the Living Dead and some Dawn of the Dead filming sites on top of Romero's office roof for SWAT scenes. Gave me extreme anxiety. Yeah, I was thinking that too. But yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Larry's heavily involved in that, and he was really excited that because apparently they shot all that stuff a few years back, and Sean Clark just kind of been sitting on it and finally decided to edit it and put it out this week. And it's a great video. I think Synth put the link to it in the chat earlier tonight, but it's also in the community section on my page too if you guys want to check it out. It's a really good, and like I said, Larry kind of gives some information, some lesser known facts about the movies in that video too. A lot of stuff I didn't know. Bonnie says Brain Damage is fun. Yeah, very fun. It's kind of a it's I don't know, it's fucked up, but in like a funny, fun kind of way. And you kind of end up like, it's one of those movies where it was like, I'm on the line of like, could I show my 4-year-old daughter this movie? Because like there are parts of it that she would get a kick out of, like especially with the Aylmer and shit. But there's also parts in it where the Elmer, that scene. I don't know about that one, but yeah, it's great. It's just a fun body horror type of movie, whatever you want to call it. Since then, I forgot if I saw Duckling. Need to revisit it since it was probably 25 years ago. Yeah, you definitely should. Highly recommend it. Like I said, it may be seriously my new favorite Fulci film. I think it's definitely. I mean, he thought it was his best film, and I tend to agree with him on that. Rick said, not to get political, I hope the incoming presidential administration can place the economy back on track with jobs and repairing the damage from the last 30 years. Well, it's a little bit out of left field, but I agree with you. I hope the incoming presidential administration makes us all rich and gets us all laid. But, we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's kind of a, it's kind of a funny Since saying Fulci is fond of mistreating women and animals, that adds kids to the list, I suppose. Well, apparently Fulci was really nice to the kids that he worked with. Like apparently that was always the thing. He was like he's always good with kids. Um, but yeah, he does off a few and don't torture a duckling. We'll just say that. Um, since then, I might have given you a super chat when I found your channel. I had money back then. No worries, man. I just a function that I don't really put too much emphasis on, but the fact that I got my first one tonight. Thank you so much, Zombie Historian. Tickled really. What do they say? Shickled me titless. Is that what the old women around the South used to say back in the day? Oh, I was shickled titless. Rick said I had seen Nightbreed when it came out. I recall I liked it at the time. I get Nightbreed mixed up with what's the other one that was very similar? I can't think of what the hell it's called now. Not Near Dark, but there was another one that came out right around that time that kind of reminded me of that. Since then, Nightbreed is a mixed bag. Interesting characters in it. I have the character film book with high quality photos. That's cool. My hopes are low for positive changes this week or 4 more years, but I can always be surprised. Yeah, I mean that's the thing. I mean that's new president coming in tomorrow, and things are changing, and it's be some for the better, some for the worse. You never know. I mean, that's just always the way it is when we get a new president. There's new leadership in the White House and all that shit. Like, just roll with it. I'm not gonna. It's like Bill Maher said. Just don't pre-hate anything, and just don't. Oh, everything sucks or everything's great or that's just silly. Just roll with it. Live your life. Do your best. Get up. Go to work. Just do the best you can. That's all I can say. Focus on you and focus on your life and what you want to achieve and what you want to accomplish the next 4 years. And then everything else, we'll just, just deal with it. Just deal with it the best you can. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Brain damage is a real drug addiction allegory. Yeah, for sure. It kind of reminds me of Cronenberg's Naked Lunch. If you guys have seen that, there's a lot of which it came out. I think came out before Naked Lunch, so Naked Lunch may have taken some from Brain Damage, which I think the story for Naked Lunch was around before Brain Damage, but I think some of I don't know, Naked Lunch kind of feels very Henenlotter to me a little bit, and a little David Lynch too. Just to bring it full circle, we'll talk about David Lynch. Like I always thought, like Naked Lunch was kind of Cronenberg's Lynchian film in a way, because there are parts in that movie where you're just like, where the fuck is this going? Like this is this took a turn. Even for Cronenberg. Rick's saying just thought government is not responsible for fixing everything. Yeah, and they shouldn't be. Like, and like I said, just roll with it. I'll be here next week. Hope you guys are too. And no matter who the president is or, whatever goes on. Near Dark. It may be Near Dark. I don't think so. There's another movie that came out around that time. Near Dark sounds right because it is kind of like a group of vampires, type of thing. And I don't know. Maybe I'll think of it next week. Blake saying people cry about everything. Best advice is what Captain Spaulding said. Son, look around. Would I be surprised? Yeah, it's a great line. You'd be surprised. Son, look around. Would I be surprised? That actually sounds more like Dr. Phil than Captain Spaulding, but whatever. Okay, there you go. Burroughs wrote Naked Lunch in 1959. There you go. Which makes sense because it's kind of set in that time period. I knew it was before the movie and before Brain Damage, but I think some of the style, like, I don't know, I think of, the talking creature thing. I think it just reminds me of Naked Lunch. Yeah, Near Dark is an Aliens cast reunion. Well, Near Dark wasn't that directed by Catherine Bigelow, who Yeah, Catherine Bigelow, I think, directed Near Dark. She ended up marrying James Cameron, and they all kind of, it was kind of their little thing there. I mean, a lot of, the Bill Paxton and all those actors usually circulated in the same group of movies there. Down is up. Thanks for coming in, man. Good to see you again. Thanks for another great stream. Absolutely. I always appreciate you hanging out. Appreciate all you guys hanging out. Rick saying, I hear you, man, but keep hope alive. Yes, I think that's a perfect way to go out tonight. In a world without David Lynch, and a world where things are constantly changing and the world's constantly changing, in a world without TikTok. I'm sorry, guys. No more TikTok. Keep hope alive. That's the best you can do in this day and age. But once again, guys, I appreciate it. I'm going to head out in about 2.5 hours. I know Matt's got to get to work here in about 4. I'm not too far behind him, but appreciate you guys coming and hanging out tonight. Like I said, it's just a little bit of a hang session. No real deep topic or anything to get into tonight, but just kind of had a stack of shit that kind of just wanted to bring up and get you guys' thoughts on, and I'll report back on my thoughts on a lot of the stuff that I hadn't seen before. But and I'm gonna try to catch up on my David Lynch too, in honor of the man. I'm trying to think, am I missing anything, forgetting anything I wanted to talk about? I don't think so. I think we're good. Hope you guys have a great rest of the week. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. If this is your first time watching, if you're coming across this video for the first time, hit that subscribe button for me. Do me a big favor. Hit the thumbs up button on the video. That is a big favor for me. If you can't do anything else, then just go up, hit that fucking like button. It helps a brother out quite a bit. Shop.alfaromero.store. I just put up a new t-shirt on there. I finally got the Volkswagen Scirocco t-shirt up for sale. The old Zombie Hunter 78. It's up for sale now. Go check it out. Appreciate you guys as always. Always good to hang out with you guys every weekend. I'll be back next week with something else. Some other fun and frivolity for all of you. But let me get my video straight. Get out of here before the light goes out. But appreciate you guys as always. You guys have a great rest of the night, great rest of the week, and always stay scared.